The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So the franchise tag deadline has come and gone. We knew the Washington Commanders weren't going to be active in this trade deadline. So none of that really, I think, impacts us all that much. What is really interesting for us is the ripple effect of some of the decisions that were made around the league. And then you also look at some of the other decisions that have been made, not from a franchise tag perspective, but from a free agency standpoint, having to cut bait with some players to free up the cap space to then franchise tag a player. So all of those things kind of set the stage for Washington to have maybe more options available to them. So when I look at the way that, things have gone, I'd say that it went pretty much as planned. I think everything that really transpired and happened, we kind of could forecast it. I've been talking about a lot of this stuff on the podcast about what I thought would ultimately happen with Washington. And so none of this is really that much of a surprise, to be honest with you. But still, I think there are some things that we can discuss that could have an impact. I want to first start with home, though, before we start talking about what other teams did during this franchise tag period and how that may or may not impact the Commanders. Let's talk about home first. So we already knew Washington wasn't going to use the franchise tag. So once again, it wasn't, a surprise, or nothing that happened today really was shocking to the senses for any Commanders fans out there. However, I think the thing that's been really interesting for us to follow as fans is what was Washington going to do with Kam Curl? He was the only guy that felt even remotely close to being worthy of a franchise tag this offseason. And it had already been said by our general manager, Adam Peters, that we weren't going to use the franchise tag this offseason, which is to be expected. Generally when you get a new front office, a new head coach, a new GM, etc., you're not usually going to use the franchise tag. Yes, you may have a player that has been really good for you, but they don't know that guy. And as far as they're concerned, everybody is expendable until you're not. So when they came into this situation, there are only a few guys that they felt like were untouchables. Everybody else was expendable. Everybody else was, pretty much, okay, it's whatever, right? If you are under contract, then we don't necessarily have to do anything. If you're under contract and you're dead weight, or, we can save money and we don't see you as a part of the solution, we can move on. They've done that with a number of players already. And if you were up for contract, probably not going to re-sign you right away. They haven't re-signed anybody yet. Nobody, not Curtis Samuel, not Kendall Fuller, obviously not Kam Curl. They haven't done anything yet, which is to be expected. And I told you guys when we were getting ready for this process to get underway, I said, look, understand that you're going to, don't be attached to these players, because this next group's going to come in here and they're going to clean house. This is not going to look like it did under the Rivera era for the last 4 years. This is going to look brand spanking new. So I've already told you guys, don't expect them to re-sign, Kendall Fuller. I don't think he's going to be back. Don't expect them to re-sign Curtis Samuel. I don't think he's going to be back. And I wasn't sure about Kam Curl, but I'm like, he's not enough of a playmaker for them to prioritize Kam Curl. And then after what I saw at the Combine, I don't think he's a necessity that you have to have, especially being that, he's going to command what I think is pretty solid money on the open market. I don't think it's going to be earth-shattering money, however, but it'll be good enough money to where Washington probably thinks to themselves, we don't have to pay him that. We can get a guy in the draft. And, you know, I said something the other day that was I was wrong. I said Washington had drafted a safety each of the last 3 drafts. It's actually each of the last 4 drafts they've drafted a safety. Curl, I didn't include Kam Curl in that, but he should be included in that conversation. We drafted Curl in 20. We drafted Defoe in 21. We drafted Percival Butler in 22, and then we drafted Quan Martin in 23. So we've drafted a safety in each of the last 4 years. How many years are you going to have to draft a safety consecutively before you're settled in on the position? So, I mean, if Washington wants to go out and sign another, you know, safety in free agency, they have that option. There are options available. We've talked about some of them. There are more guys that, you know, were just released today in particular. And so there are options available. There were options prior to that, guys that weren't going to be re-signed where they already are, like a Geno Stone in Baltimore. Again, I don't think he necessarily fits what they're looking for here in Washington, but he did take the football away. But I think he was more a product of circumstance and less of just, you know, sheer ability. But that's nor here nor there. He's available. Rayshon Jenkins was released by, and I'll talk about that here in a second, by the Jacksonville Jaguars today. You know, you had the Seahawks release both of their starting safeties today, and Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams. So, again, there are a bunch of available safeties. And, again, if you're looking for cheap labor, the draft probably offers you that. There is no first-round safety. You can wait on the safety position and still get you a quality one probably in the middle rounds, 4th or 5th round. So I don't think they're going to re-sign Kam Curl. And I don't know if you've been keeping up with that whole saga, but let's start. So tonight I want to start with what didn't happen today. What didn't happen today. But I'm with the Kam Curl situation, I'm not going to just limit it to today. I'm going to, you know, encapsulate the entire situation, and then we'll go on to what didn't happen today. So starting with Kam Curl, I don't know if you've been following that whole situation, but you guys do a great job of keeping me abreast of anything that happens Commanders related. And it could be the most frivolous thing that I probably don't believe, and you don't either. Or it could be, you know, something like a family member tweeting out something, in the case of Kam Curl, his dad. So apparently Kam Curl's birthday just passed maybe 4 or 5 days ago. I think it was at the end of February, if I'm not mistaken, like the 27th or the 28th of February, something to that effect. And Washington did not tweet out a happy birthday, you know, tweet. They've done it for like the most meaningless players you could think of on the roster. Like, I'm just making up stuff, but this is what the equivalent of it would be. Like, they wished Cam Cheeseman happy birthday 3 months ago, and he was cut the month before that. Like, that's how bad and disrespectful that kind of felt to probably Kam Curl and his dad. Like, bro, you wishing happy birthday to a core special teamer? Like, literally, they wished happy birthday to, like, Jeremy Jarman. And he hasn't been on the roster in, like, 12 years. And Kam Curl didn't get a happy birthday, you know, tweet. So, I get it, right? Like, literally, it was one time I forgot who they sent that. I was like, bro, half of the fan base doesn't even know who this dude is, but they wished him happy birthday. I'm not mad at it, but they didn't send him a happy birthday post. I know his dad, Greg Curl, was on social media like, bro, y'all couldn't wish my guy a happy birthday. Now, I don't know if they went, you know, after Greg Curl said something, they might have went back and cleaned it up, but the damage was already done. And Kam Curl was already feeling some type of way, right? We can already tell. And so no birthday, happy birthday, social media recognition. He wasn't getting franchise tagged. And then the tag deadline comes and goes. He's not franchise tagged, which he should have already known that because they made it abundantly clear and publicly clear, I might add, that he wasn't going to be franchise tagged. Nobody was going to be franchise tagged here in Washington. And then no deal was worked out. Now, the deal thing, I don't get too hung up on it, too caught up in that, because you have up until the start of free agency to work out a new deal with your prospective free agents. So if you're the Chiefs, you don't have to work out a deal with Chris Jones today because you have until next Tuesday to work out a deal with Chris Jones. Theoretically, you'd like to get that deal done sooner rather than later, but at the end of the day, you'd like to get that deal done as quickly as possible. So with that said, doesn't look like Kam Curl's going to be back. Don't want to read too much into it. Don't want to, get too caught up in the social media back and forth, but it doesn't get more direct than a deuces sign, right? When you're, a fan, makes a comment and you chuck the deuces like, hey, I'm out. I don't know if he's going to be back or not. The writing kind of seems like it's on the wall. I'm not shocked nor surprised. And I already told you guys, Kam Curl is a smart football player. It's nice to have those types of guys on your football team. And if he would have been back, I would have been elated. But if he's not back, I'm not tripping because he's not a playmaker. He hasn't been, at least. I can't say that he's not a playmaker. He just hasn't been one. And there's a large enough sample size here. And again, that could just be part of it, could be the coaching staff, right? And I don't want to just put it on him, by himself. Some of it could be the coaching staff, not putting him in the best positions to make plays. That said, he has to bear some of that burden, not making plays, because sometimes as a player, you have to find yourself in the right place at the right time, and you got to make plays when those opportunities present themselves, and he hasn't always done that. That said, he's a replaceable player, I believe. And for the money, and that was always the conversation, was how much is it going to cost? How much is a Kam Curl deal going to cost you? Because if it's not cost effective, you just don't do it. So apparently the number that his camp was thinking and the number that Washington probably was thinking weren't close enough, and they just said to hell with it. So that's the first thing that I kind of noticed was, yeah, Kam Curl probably ain't gonna be back. And once you get to this point and you get in your feelings and it feels like he's in his feelings at this point, you do stuff off of the strength of principle. We saw Chauncey Gardner do it last year with the Eagles, where he ended up shooting himself in the foot. Same thing Le'Veon Bell did once upon a time. Same thing that I felt like, I think it was Jaron Reed did, with the Seahawks. You get mad, you get in your feelings. There's a deal on the table. You don't want to take it. You think you're being lowballed. So you go out on the market only to realize that what you thought was out there really isn't out there. And the deal that was on the table was the best deal you were going to get. And now you done screwed yourself. Now you can't go back because it's off the strength of principle. You can't go back now and say, hey, you still think I can get that deal with Rockefeller? You can't go back now. So you got to go sign somewhere else to make your point. Kam Curl kind of feels like he's at the point now where I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. Even if you offer me a deal, I don't want to be in Washington now. Okay, that's cool. Kendall Fuller feels like he's gone. Curtis Samuel, I won't count him out yet, but he feels like he's going to. I don't really see us re-signing any of the free agents, honestly speaking. I really don't. That's kind of where I'm at, is I don't really see them re-signing anybody, really. Not anybody of note, that is. I think they're gonna re-sign some of the guys we've talked about. You know, the special teams guys like, you know, Jeremy Reeves and Joey Sly and those kind of guys. I think you're gonna see them re-sign, you know, those types of guys, but maybe one or two of those young linebackers. But I can't really see them spending money on guys that were here, who contributed to the, you know, 4-win season we had, or whatever it was last year, 4-13. Can't see them spending a whole hell of a lot of money on those guys. They're going to revamp this roster. With that said, let's talk about what didn't happen today. All right. So the Texans didn't franchise tag edge rusher Jonathan Grenard. And I'm not going to lie to you, I got a little nervous because he's one of my free agent targets. And when they got the deal done with tight end, because the guy that I thought was most likely to be franchise tagged in Houston was tight end Dalton Schultz. And they got a deal done with him. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. But when they got that deal done with him, I was like, oh, shit. They might have done that deal to clear the way for them to franchise tag Jonathan Grenard coming off of a career year. No, they didn't. They just wanted to get that done. And if they couldn't get it done, they were going to have to franchise tag him, and they didn't want to do that. Which I told you, he was so good for them because a lot of people were like, hey, Dalton Schultz might be available. I'm like, I don't think the Texans are going to let him walk away. So that's one less tight end target in free agency available for Washington. But more importantly, that's another edge rusher still available. Now, again, Texans have up until next Wednesday to ink a deal with Jonathan Grenard before the start of free agency. And so they still have an opportunity to get it done and not allow him to hit, you know, free agency and test the market. But that's a guy that I've got my eye on right now. Currently, he's still available. I'm excited about that. What didn't happen was 9 of the top 13 free agents listed on just about every single site you could think of. And they might be in different order, but these are 9 of the top 13 free agents. Whether you go to PFF, NFL.com, CBS Sports, you name it, you go there, SI.com. They're in some order, but they're all in the top 15, most likely top 13. 9 of the top 13 free agents didn't make it to free agency. Whether it was a franchise tag or a transition tag or inked a new deal, etc., etc. 9 of the top 13 free agents did not make it to free agency. So for those of you out there with these ideas of grandeur of Washington going out here and just making it rain, right? All of these big time free agents going to be available. Let's see what Washington does. It could still happen. It just won't be happening with some of the best guys that were going to be available. We'll talk about that here in a second. What didn't happen is the Cowboys didn't bring back Tyron Smith. They aren't going to bring him back. They didn't franchise Tony Pollard. We knew they weren't going to franchise tag Tony Pollard. None of the running backs, for that matter, were franchise tagged. And we knew that, and we talked about that already. Tony Pollard did not get franchise tagged in Dallas. Josh Jacobs did not get franchise tagged in Vegas. Saquon Barkley did not get franchise tagged in New York. And so the running back, and Derrick Henry is not going to be back in Tennessee. The running back market is as robust as it's ever been in free agency. Joe Mixon may be adding his name to the list here shortly. We'll see what the Bengals do. Not that anybody's salivating over getting their hands on Joe Mixon at this point of his career anyway. But again, the running back market is definitely robust. And then you throw in a guy like DeAndre Swift to that mix, and it's a really star-studded, young, talented group of running backs. Dolphins don't franchise tag defensive tackle Christian Wilkins. This was a bit of a surprise when we found out that they were thinking about not doing this 2 days ago. Okay, up until then, the assumption was they're going to franchise Christian Wilkins. Nope, they told us 2 days ago, not going to do it, which was a bit of a surprise. Then, as you see them start to cut bait and get rid of some players, i.e. Jerome Baker, etc., you're thinking, maybe they are doing something. Or maybe they're trying to get all their ducks in a row. And I made this, I gave this theory out on the podcast yesterday. Maybe they're clearing all this space up and getting everything nice and tidy, and they didn't bring back Christian Wilkins so that they can go after Chris Jones. If you can't beat them, steal from them. That's the mantra. If you can't beat them, steal from them. You can't beat the Chiefs, steal from them. That'll help you out. Hell, we can't beat the Cowboys, steal from them. Take their defensive coordinator, take one of their valuable assistant coaches, and start picking off guys from their roster. You can't beat them, steal from them. We'll see what happens there. Patriots did not tag offensive tackle Mike Onwenu. We talked about Mike Onwenu, and we said he's an option. Patriots weren't going to franchise tag him. I thought that there was a chance they could franchise tag Kyle Duggar. They transition tagged him, so that happened, and I was not surprised. Was somewhat surprised in the fact that they transition tagged him, but they tagged him nonetheless. And then what also didn't happen was Dalton Schultz didn't make it to free agency, which would have been another target potentially for Washington this offseason in free agency at the tight end position. Had he become available, which I didn't think he would, I would have been interested in Dalton Schultz. But my target has been Noah Fant, and I talked about that last week on the program. He's the target in free agency. If you can't get Noah Fant, I'm pretty much good. So what did happen today? What has happened over the last 48 hours, but today in particular? Schultz gets the deal in Houston, so that's one less target on the board for Washington. Jerome Baker, that's a big one, gets released by the Miami Dolphins. He was a guy that wasn't previously on the board when we were talking linebackers and the guys that would be available in free agency. Jerome Baker wasn't a part of that mix. He's 27 years old. He just got cut. He's a damn good linebacker. He's athletic. He's a playmaker. He's on the list now. Now, I will say this. He's got ties to Pittsburgh. The Steelers need an inside linebacker. It seems like a really good fit. My guess is he'd pursue the Steelers before he comes here. And what you always have to take into consideration is we're still trash. I know it feels new and you're excited, but there's still a stench that resonates from Washington, and there's still a stigma here. Now, it's a little bit different if guys are open-minded and agents will tell their clients, look, that's not what it used to be with Dan Snyder. It's a new day. But these players, like Jerome Baker played against us last year. Now, he got hurt against us, if I'm not mistaken. I think his season might have ended against us late in the season when they played us, and he hurt himself in the end zone defending a pass. But I think that was against us. It might not have been. I might be tripping, but I think he was one of the guys that spoke after the game was over and pretty much said, yeah, they trash and I mean, we knew what to expect, and they did exactly what we thought they were going to do, and they didn't run the football and yada, yada, yada. And yeah, got ugly fast. When you play against a team and they're really bad, you don't want to go play for that team after destroying them by, 8 touchdowns the year before. So while it would be nice to add a guy like Jerome Baker at a position of desperate need, and a guy that I don't think is going to cost you, again, linebacker position doesn't cost you a whole hell of a lot. Whatever the case may be, I don't see him coming here. But he's available, and that's another guy to add to the list. So what actually happened today from a tag perspective? Michael Pittman Jr. got the tag in Indianapolis. We talked about that. We knew it was going to happen. Brian Burns got the tag in Carolina. That was shrouded in mystery. We talked about it yesterday, and there was this slim ray of hope. Like, it was this little fine ray of hope that they wouldn't be able to get something done in Carolina, and they would just say, you know what, to hell with it. There was no way Carolina was going to say to hell with it. You've done too much in the past to just say to hell with it. You've come too far. You've passed on too many opportunities to move this guy to just say to hell with it. You can't do it. Burns got tagged in Carolina. Jalen Johnson was tagged in Chicago. Kind of figured that would happen. Once no deal got reached, this is a guy they could have traded at the trade deadline and gotten something for him, and they didn't. So that tells you they felt like he was a part of their future. They're not going to just let him walk. The Ravens had already made it abundantly clear that they wanted to get a long-term deal struck with Justin MOBBSQUAD after turning in the massive career season that he turned in last year. But if they didn't, they were going to franchise tag him. Well, that deal didn't get done, so they franchise tagged Justin MOBBSQUAD. Antoine Winfield, I mentioned him on the show last week as a potential safety target should Curl not be back. I said he's going to cost, however, and I don't think you're going to want to pay what it's going to take to get Antoine Winfield on your team. If Tampa Bay doesn't franchise tag him, I thought they would more so go after Baker. Once I realized that they weren't going to franchise tag Baker and they said, we're not franchise tagging Baker Mayfield, and then they got the deal done with Mike Evans, it cleared the path for them to do exactly what they did, which is franchise tag Antoine Winfield Jr. He's coming off of a massive season, all pro type stats. Hard to just let a guy walk after he does that. And they didn't. This is the one that I had Birdman hand rub because I had heard nothing about Jacksonville franchise tagging Josh Allen. Everybody else had come out and made it abundantly clear what they were or weren't going to do at the franchise tag deadline. Teams had made it clear. Chiefs had already said, we're franchise tagging L'Jarius Sneed. Ravens had already said, we're franchise tagging Justin MOBBSQUAD if we can't get a long-term deal done. Colts had already said, we're franchise tagging Michael Pittman Jr. if we can't get a long-term deal done with him. Bears, same thing with Jalen Johnson, et cetera, et cetera. There were two guys in particular that I was watching like a hawk, Brian Burns, and there was, again, this cloud of mystery, but I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And there were fans yesterday asking, you think Carolina won't? I was like, nah, bro. I'll be shocked if they don't. Shocked. And of course they did. This was the other one. And I kept saying, I haven't heard anything about Josh Allen getting franchise tag. But trust me, the man had a gajillion sacks last year. There's no way they're letting him walk after he just did what he did. No way. And of course, they didn't. They cut a couple of guys today to clear out the space that they needed. They slapped the tag on Josh Allen. So another one of those intriguing edge rushing, young, talented, stud edge rushers off the board. He would have been if there was one high priced item I would have been willing to splurge on and I wouldn't have felt bad about it, Josh Allen would have been it. Well, that's gone now. Kyle Duggar transition tagged in New England. So what the transition tag means is he can still go out and find a deal with another team and be signed to an offer sheet. All that transition tag means is that the Patriots have the right of first refusal, meaning they can match any deal he signs, and he'll be back in New England. So if he goes out and the Tennessee Titans are like, yo, love your game, want you here in Tennessee, and they sign him to a 3-year, $58 million deal, the Patriots can say, all right, we'll match that. We like that number. That's a cool number for us. Welcome back. Or they can say, nah, that's a little too rich for our blood. You can go ahead to Tennessee with that shit. So all of those guys were tagged, in addition to the guys that were already previously tagged. T. Higgins, L'Jarius Sneed. I think those were the only two, in addition to these guys here. What else happened today? Seahawks cut Jamal Adams, starting safety. Seahawks cut Quandre Diggs, starting safety. Seahawks cut Will Dissly, starting or one of their tight ends. What else happened today? Jags cut safety Rayshon Jenkins and cornerback Darius Williams. Now, I used to be a massive Darius Williams fan, so I was interested to see what the age on Darius. I was a Darius Williams fan when he was with the Rams. He's been with Jacksonville for a few years, so of course the age snuck up on me. I checked on him and I was, I think he's like 30 years old. I'm good. You're going to do that? You might as well bring back Kendall Fuller at 29, right? So now I'm good. Rayshon Jenkins is still relatively young, though. Safety out of the U. So that's another option. He's a physical guy, more of an in-the-box physical presence type of safety than he is, a Swiss Army knife. So I don't know if he'll have the kind of flexibility. Should I say it? Should I say it? I won't say it. And then the Jets cut tight end CJ Uzama, and the Panthers cut tight end Hayden Hurst. So if you're really, truly desperate, there's some more options. I don't really think that those options are ones that intrigue me here in Washington, especially Hayden Hurst. If you guys recall last year, he had some kind of issue with memory loss. You guys remember that? He missed a game or two behind, having like blank spots in his memory, and it was some scary shit, man. So, yeah, I'm good. Anyway, those are all the things that happened. So what does this mean for the Commanders now? What does all of this mean? So really, I think everything that was done today at the franchise tag deadline keeps business on schedule for the Commanders for the most part. Nothing crazy happened. Like Jonathan Grenard didn't get franchise tag. Josh Allen stings a little bit. Fingers were crossed. You were hoping Jacksonville would just say, you know what, can't pay everybody. But no, he's one of the guys you have to pay. You can't let Josh Allen walk. So, and I knew that, you knew that, but you just can only hope, right? So him being taken off the board, that sucks. But Mike Onwenu being available gives you another tackle option. Let me ask y'all something. How do y'all feel about two guys in particular? Now, one of them, the other one, I don't know if I love either of them, but they cut Charles Leno Jr. because they have a plan. I'm gonna throw 3 names at you, and I just want y'all in the comment section to just tell me how you feel. Tyron Smith. First of all, I don't think he ends up here. I'll talk about that here in a second. But Tyron Smith, Chucks Okorafor, former Pittsburgh Steelers tackle that was cut back in February. And Mekhi Becton is going to be a free agent. The former first-round pick of the New York Jets, 897 pounds, athletic as the day is long, can't stay healthy for his life right now. But who knows? Better coaching, et cetera, et cetera. He's another one of those guys. Just like I talked about with Jeff Okudah. Low risk, high reward proposition. You don't sign Mekhi Becton to a big deal. Okay? You don't sign him to a big deal. Jeff Okudah isn't going to cost you a ton of coins. If it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't, you move on and nobody even blinks. It doesn't even leave a footprint. Those 3 are available in addition to Mike Onwenu at the tackle position. I think those 4 are probably going to be the 4 tackles that move the needle. Again, it's not a great tackle free agency class. And for those of you who say just attack the position, that being tackle position in the draft, okay, and that can be done. We got enough picks to do it. You could take both of your second-round picks and go tackle, and be done with it. Just like that. It can be done in the draft. Now, you would be sacrificing talent at other positions if you were to do it that way. Because obviously, you're not going to get you a high-quality edge rusher. The further you go back, the less likely it is you end up with a guy that's a game changer. I won't say that for linebacker, tight end, or any of the other positions, but the further back you go with edge rusher, the less likely it is you uncover a gem. So the question then becomes, do you just go tackle? That's an option if you don't get anything in free agency. We'll see what happens. I can tell you this much. They didn't cut Charles Leno Jr. without a plan. Yep, he had hip surgery, or he's about to have hip surgery, or did he already have hip surgery? Who cares? He's not here anymore. But nobody wanted him back, really. But my whole thing has and always will be, and again, the contract suggests, and I don't know what the actual language in the contract was, and where there was a bonus that would have kicked in had he been on the roster at the start of the new league year, et cetera, et cetera. I can't speak to that stuff. All I can tell you is, had they waited, they would have saved even more money. Because if they designated him a post-June 1 cut, instead of saving $7.5 million, they would have saved $11.5 million. So the fact that they cut him when they cut him meant we don't even want you on the roster anymore, bro. Just give me the $7 million. We straight. You wait until June, and it's going to save you an additional $4 million. It was like, we ain't hurting for money like that. Let's just move on from him so we can get other guys on the roster. I ain't mad at it. So we'll see what happens. So the 3 guys I just brought up in particular, Tyron Smith, Chucks Okorafor, and Mekhi Becton. Real quick on them. I don't want Tyron Smith, and I don't think he wants us. if you're Tyron Smith, you failed to win a Super Bowl in Dallas. You're a Hall of Fame tackle more likely than not when your career ends. The only thing you're missing on this career is Super Bowl. So you're not going to a place like Washington who's looking to rebuild. I've seen so many people tweet out, hey, this is the guy we have to go get, priority number one in free agency. Just because you want somebody doesn't mean they want you. And I think that's a lot of times where fans get the game twisted. Free agency, the key part about free agency is free. It ain't free, but it's of free will, right? So he doesn't have to come here. He's got options. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't want him here. But he doesn't want to be here, is my guess. Now, this is the only, if you're Team Tyron, and you want him here, your only saving grace, Dan Quinn is here. Don't know the relationship between the two of them. I would imagine that Dan Quinn has a relationship with Tyron Smith. I would imagine that it's a good one because I haven't met a guy yet. I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't heard anybody speak that didn't have a good relationship with Dan Quinn. So my guess would be that if he does have a relationship with Dan Quinn of any kind, it's a positive one. That's your only hope. That's your in. If you're hoping Tyron Smith ends up here. I don't think that's a strong enough force nor pull to get him here to Washington over, say, and I'm just throwing out a random team. I don't even know if they need a tackle, Miami Dolphins, right? A team that could win a Super Bowl next year, right? I wouldn't come here if I were him and I had options on the table for a team that's looking to win a Super Bowl. So Pittsburgh Steelers need a left tackle. What's stopping him from going to Pittsburgh? Right? Who knows? Again, I'm just throwing out random stuff. I don't even know if these teams need tackles or not. But I said all that to say this. He's not coming here, I don't think. And if he does come here, it's strictly off of the strength of Dan Quinn. It's the Dan Quinn effect. Chuck's a core four. I don't think he's all that good. The Steelers kind of saw the writing on the wall with him. He was their starting right tackle for the last about 4 years or so, 3-4 years. They drafted the kid out of Georgia this past year in the first round at the Steelers. So they got like midway through the season, week 8, week 9, and they benched Chuck's a core four and started the kid from Georgia. Now, initially it was due to some kind of issue off the field that, occurred after a game or something. So it was like a disciplinary situation. And then they just said, well, the young fella's in there and he's playing well. Let's just leave him alone. And that was the end of Chuck's core four in Pittsburgh. If a guy's really good, if he does something and you got to bench him, he's getting his job back. I mean, the chances are you'll find him, you won't bench him. And Mekhi Becton is interesting to me. Now, a lot of you might be like, I don't want him. I'm listening. Like, I'm not over here beating down the damn door for Mekhi Becton. But if you mention his name, I'm like, I'm listening. I'm listening. Same thing with Jeff Okudah. I'm not over here like got Jeff Okudah at the top of my list at the cornerback position. But if you start talking to me about how this coaching staff may be able to revitalize a former first-round pick's career, I'm listening. What you got to say? I'm looking at Mekhi Becton. I remember how I felt about him coming out of what was it, Cincinnati? if I'm not mistaken. I remember how I felt about him. And this dude was a monster. And, you know, we were worried. A lot of people were worried about his weight. But the thing you couldn't deny was the athleticism. Dude was like I don't know what he weighed at the combine that year. Like, it had to be like 360. And he ran like a 5.0140 or some shit like that. 5.07, 5.04. It was something ridiculous for a guy that size. And he killed it in all the drills from an athletic standpoint. And it just made you go, wow, this is impressive. If he can just figure it out, if he can just stay healthy, and even the health concerns weren't even a thing then, like they are now. But this is why I said it's a low risk, high reward proposition. He's not going to command a ton of money. Now, he may have a lot of suitors. Again, when you're a former first round pick, and not just any former, this guy wasn't drafted 29th or 27th overall. Excuse me. We're talking about a top 15 pick in the draft. Jeff Okudah was a top 5 pick in his respective draft. When you're talking about guys that go that high in the draft, there's talent there. Now, what has taken place to lead them down the path that they're on with Okudah? There was injuries, there was poor play, and that led to, I think, a lack of confidence at this point, which is crucial for the position in particular that he plays, but it's crucial for any position in the NFL or any sport for that matter. I'm interested in a Jeff Okudah. I'm interested in a Mekhi Becton. These are the kind of things you need to hit on, to get lucky with, in order to turn this thing around faster, sooner rather than later. Because we're not going to hit on every guy in a draft. Contrary to popular belief, some of you think, well, we got 9 draft picks, so we're going to hit on 9 guys. That's not how this works. Okay? It's not how this works. We're not even sure right now if we're going to hit on the first guy we take, which is the quarterback, let alone the second guy or the third guy, the fourth guy, the fifth guy, et cetera, et cetera. Hence, you need to have some of these free agents. You need to supplement your roster. You need to get lucky. And some of it isn't luck, by the way. If you target Jeff Okudah when nobody else is checking for Jeff Okudah, but you go and you specifically seek him out and you sign him to a 1 year, 4.5, 1 year, $6 million deal just to kick the tires, and he balls out. Remember when we did that with Ronald Darby? Remember that? Remember how that worked out? That's what we need. We need a Jeff Okudah or somebody like that. Remember, we just kicked the Ronald Darby tires. 1 year, $7.5 million or some shit like that. Nobody was even thinking about Ronald Darby. He was an afterthought. We got him on the clearance rack all the way in the back of the store. 2 sizes too damn big. They were literally giving away the Ronald Darby shirt. And he was like, bro, they literally, it's basically not even on the hanger no more. Let's just throw it in the cart. It's not even going to cost us nothing. If it doesn't work out, you can give it to your mom and she can sleep in it. It's not a big deal. If you wash it once and it shrinks from an extra, extra large to a medium, you can give it to your kid. Either way, it's not going to hurt you. That man balled out for us to the point where we were arguing, should we re-sign Ronald Darby the next year? Instead, we jettisoned him for a guy that's not even in the league anymore, and William Jackson III, who fleeced us for a payday and didn't play again after he left Washington. Now, it didn't work out for Ronald Darby in Denver. He got hurt again. But anyway, I digress. I said all of that to say this. That's the kind of gem that I'm looking for them to unearth. They did it in Dallas with Malik Hooker. If you can do it with Malik Hooker, who's a former top 5 pick that didn't work out because of injuries and a lack of confidence in Indy, why can't you do it with Jeff Okudah? Why can't you do it with Mekhi Becton? I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Anyway, when it's all said and done, when you look at what was done today, nothing really stopped Washington from doing the things that they probably already had set in motion. All of the things that they might be targeting. Sure, if a Josh Allen somehow, and they already knew, they talked to enough people when they were at the combine in Indy. They already knew. They had a sense of what teams were going to do. Like, don't think for one second that these teams are keeping other teams in the dark as to what they're going to do. Word gets out about Josh Allen potentially getting franchise tagged in Jacksonville. They already knew. Well, we can scratch him off the list. He's not going to be available. They already knew Russell Wilson was getting released from Denver. That was going around. They already knew. They talk. These guys talk. They like little girls at the combine. Hey, did you hear? You watched the commander's log? You saw all them little sidebar conversations that was taking place? Yeah, they knew he was on camera, so they weren't going to say nothing crazy. But trust me, those little sidebar conversations, they usually involve another team, another player, etc., etc. These dudes ain't no different than little middle school girls talking about another girl, talking about this boy they think is cute, yada, yada, yada. So these teams know what the hell's happening before it happens a lot of times because they talk. They were at the Senior Bowl together. They were at the Combine together. So they already knew. So Washington's plans weren't really affected by anything that happened today for the most part. Grenard not getting franchise tag. Bryce Huff, we already knew wasn't going to be franchise tag with the Jets. Those are free agent targets for the Commanders. Guys like that. Michael Winnu, free agent target for the Commanders. We already knew that he wasn't going to be franchise tag. Xavier McKinney, still available. Don't think Washington is going to spend big on the safety position. I wouldn't if I were them. Continue to draft. I'd continue to draft. I'd spend another draft pick. For the 5th consecutive year, I would draft a safety if I were Washington, if it meant that much to you. We got some safeties here now. We got some guys to play around with and see what they're capable of. Test out their skill sets to see if they fit what you want to do defensively. But if you want to add another guy to the mix, knock yourself out. What is apparent right now, the biggest thing that I would say that I've come to the realization of over the last probably 48 to 72 hours is they're not bringing back none of the dudes that we talked about. I thought there would be one of them that they'd bring back. Curtis, Kendall, or Cam. I thought one of those 3 would be back. The other guys, you didn't need to bring back anybody else. For real, honestly. Other than, All-Pro Revo and Sly and a couple of other guys, just for the sake of, hey, you need a core special teamer and you need a kicker. Even if you plan on replacing Joey Sly, just don't be ball naked out here in these streets at the kicker position. I don't want to be desperate, needing to do something crazy. At least have a backup plan. Have Joey Sly in your back pocket. Not going to cost you a whole hell of a lot to bring him back. And if you want to bring in competition for him, I'm all for it. Knock yourself out. Don't create another need on this roster if you don't have to. So I thought one of those guys would get signed. I don't think any of those dudes are getting signed here. And I'm not surprised, by the way, because I told you guys, don't get attached to these players. Because once this new group comes in here, we didn't know who the new group was going to be at the time. But I was telling y'all when Rivera and them were here, I said, I'm telling you right now, when this new group comes in, it's going to be a yard sale. It's going to be a closing of a store and a liquidation. Everything must go. And that's kind of what you're seeing. I know that Jonathan Allen sounds like he's going to be here. Sounds like they want him here. I don't think they're going to trade him. I wouldn't rule it out, though. The right deal comes about, I would not rule out a Jonathan Allen trade this offseason still. Just so we're clear. I do not think anything is going to happen. But I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked if something did happen. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. See what you guys are talking about. And we'll set the stage for Thursday's show, which is going to be a massive show, which will be our free agency primer, essentially, here on the Louie T Network, where we get you ready for the start of the free agency period for these Commanders. I brought up a few names tonight and even last week and probably weeks prior to that we will bring up again and recycle because these are the names that we'll potentially be targeting. But we'll get knee deep now that the franchise tag period is gone, and you'll start to see more guys be released as teams continue to try to get under the cap as we get closer and closer to the start of the new league year. So you'll have more casualties, more names that will appear that weren't here before that'll be available. Again, i.e. like a Jerome Baker that just wasn't something that we could foresee. Now he's available. There will be more names in the coming days as we get closer and closer. Remember, once we get to the weekend, you're going to start hearing about the tampering period, which is officially supposed to start on Monday. But I wouldn't be shocked if we start hearing shit over the weekend. That's the point that we've gotten to, where you might start hearing rumblings and grumblings over the weekend, even though the tampering period, which is supposed to be 48 hours prior to free agency starting, which is where you can start to hear deals getting done, it is supposed to start until Monday. I wouldn't be shocked if you start hearing some shit over the weekend. So, Rob, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for your generosity in gifting 5 memberships. Really, truly do appreciate you in spreading the love of the mob. Thank you for allowing others to be embraced into the MOBB. Rob, you've been a member for 30 months. What's up, Lou? What's going on, Rob? It's been a minute. It has, but it always seems like it's yesterday when we kick it, bro. Says, hope all is well with you and the fam. Thoughts on free agents Isaiah Simmons, Mekhi Becton, and Jeff Okudah. So I've talked about Okudah and Becton already. I've talked about Okudah in particular on various streams. So you should already have a working knowledge of how I feel about Jeff Okudah and what I think. And then I just had a conversation about him again. Mekhi Becton is interesting. I brought him up earlier tonight. I think he is a guy that fans should open their minds to consider. I don't know if he fits what Washington is looking to do. I don't know if that's a guy that they will look to add or not, but I wouldn't be mad at it. Again, a former first-round pick those are hard to find. And sometimes All you need to do is shine them up and reinstill confidence into those guys to get them to play at the level that they were once, viewed as coming into the league. You can do that. You might have a gem on your hands, right? The guy's still young. So I'm open. My ears are open. My mind is open on a guy like Mekhi Becton and Jeff Okudah. As far as Isaiah Simmons is concerned, I'm good on him. I'm good on Isaiah Simmons. Now, I say that because two teams have pretty much went, we good on him. Two different staffs. However, those staffs aren't our staff. And he's the kind of unicorn. He's the kind of guy that would probably be a great fit for a Dan Quinn defensive scheme. That's the kind of guy that you get maximum usage out of if you're a Dan Quinn type of guy who likes those hybrid players. This is a guy you're talking about that's got a safety frame but can play the linebacker position. And vice versa. Last year he was in safety meetings in Arizona before he got shipped to the Giants and ended up going back to the linebacker position. So he's a hybrid. He's a different breed. And if that interests you, and we know Dan Quinn is looking for guys that can do multiple things, Isaiah Simmons may be right up his alley. I haven't seen anything from Isaiah Simmons in the league that has blown me away. Nothing. I've watched a ton of Isaiah Simmons. Other than the interception, pick six game sealer he had against us, which was trash, by the way. Right place, right time. Sam's getting ragdolled, trying to throw it out of bounds. Can't get it far enough. Falls into his arms, and he runs down the sideline. Almost gets caught, but doesn't. Nothing he's done to this point of his career has really wowed me. So, not really sure if Isaiah Simmons moves the needle for me. I can't speak for anybody else. And if they brought him here, I'd be open to it. I'm open to just about anything at this point. Just about, not everything. Don't want Russell Wilson here. Don't want Kirk Cousins here. Don't want Baker Mayfield here. Like, I'm not open to everything, but I'm open to a lot of things. Mr. Pink, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, "Sup, LTEE? What's going on, Mr. Pink?" Says 12 years ago, we went into the draft with the second overall pick, looking to take a young, black, dangerously small running quarterback who just won the Heisman. PTSD. I want Drake or trade back. Well, you can't base your selection and your decision off of what happened over a decade ago when it didn't work. You can't do that. You may have PTSD from it, but you can't base your decision off of that. Now, can you learn from that experience? Can you look for red flags that you may have bypassed the last time? Sure. Absolutely. You can't let that shake because they're not the same guy. That's number one. Number two, where's the mentals at? With Robert, it was abundantly clear from the jump. Mike Shanahan said he went to their home, sat in the living room, brought up a game in which Robert struggled, and he said Robert and his dad were tripping over each other, trying to point the finger at Art Briles. Everybody but Robert. Right? There were red flags all over the place with that guy. Is Jaden Daniels that kind of dude? I don't think so. I haven't heard anything that would suggest that. Who's to say? I don't know. I haven't heard anything that suggests that. But I would love to. I feel pretty confident saying he's not Robert Griffin III from a mental standpoint. I feel really comfortable saying that. So again, there's that. This guy, how many years of college football has this guy? Robert came to the NFL with already a previous ACL injury, and Jaden Daniels has nothing of the sort. So again, vastly different situations. I get it though. I get it. I understand why there's PTSD there, but you can't allow that situation. If that's the guy that you believe in, you can't allow that situation to stop you over a dozen years later. Can't let that be the reason you don't make a selection, right? I hear you though, loud and clear. DMV Chef P, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. Y'all know what to do. Show DMV Chef P some love. Welcome him with open arms. Show him what it's like to be a member of the MOBB. Welcome to the squad, DMV Chef P. Speaking of which, welcome. And thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. DMV Chef P writes, what up, Lou? What's up, DMV Chef P? Just wanted to say, after vetting you for an entire year, I'm a fan of what it is you have here. I'm glad that I passed the test. It was a long test, but I passed. I feel good. I feel vindicated. So thank you for showing up, giving me a shot, coming back, continuing to support, and eventually saying, you know what? I respect his craft enough to give him a shot, become a member of the mob. And I appreciate the shout out too. I appreciate you coming from behind the shadows and saying, hey, I just want to let you know I respect what it is you got going on here. I appreciate that. I won't know unless you tell me. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad I was able to earn not only your sub, but also your membership. Really glad to have you on board. So thank you for that. Colton Wheeler, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Colton writes, have you got the chance to look at Peyton Wilson film? If so, thoughts? So I haven't watched his film in particular yet. Still parsing through the offensive tackles in this draft because I know Washington is going to be active in that market. So I want to continue to go through that position in particular with a fine-tooth comb, because while I'm getting excited about these top tier guys, we're not getting any of them. So what I really need to find myself focused in on are these second tier and third tier guys, because the likelihood is we're going to end up with one of them more likely than it is, you know, one of these top tier guys. We're not getting Joe Alt. We're not getting, you know, Fuaga. We're not getting Fatanu. You know, we're not getting JC Latham. We're not getting Fashanu. And I know that. That's not going to stop me from watching those guys. But in comparison, I want to see what these guys look like and then see what the drop-off is. So I just know what I'm getting myself into. Like, boy, there's a steep drop-off after this tackle right here. I want to be able to say that confidently. So I'm still watching these tackles, but eventually the process, like the tackles to me require, them and the quarterbacks require the most work. Once we get past those, and I'm almost done with the tackles, once I get past them, then this process is going to move a lot quicker, because the rest of these positions don't require as much attention to detail. You can see it. When you watch a running back, you see it. When you watch a receiver, you see it. When you watch an edge rusher, you see it. When you watch a defensive lineman, you see it. You know, when you watch a linebacker, you see it. You know what you're looking at. You watch a corner, you watch a safety, you see it. You know what you're looking at, and you, in terms of preference, you know what you're looking for. So still trudging through these offensive tackles, right? Eventually, I'll finish them up, and I'll circle back, get to the guards and the centers and all of that stuff too. But we're moving past the offensive line after this, and I'll circle back to get to a lot of these interior guys as well, because they're going to be a hot topic of conversation in Washington, particularly if we don't do anything in free agency. Then you'll have to probably grab one in the draft at some point. I think we're going to grab one in free agency. I almost feel 100% certain about that. I find it hard to believe, because I still think it's going to be tough if they don't go out and get one of these off the beaten path tackles that you might not be all that excited about. I don't think they're going to get a tackle, right? I think the value in free agency is on the interior, and we don't need a center. I'm convinced our center is on the roster. If he's not, at least you have to give him a shot to prove that he's not, in Ricky Stromberg. I'm not telling you don't bring in a guy that is versatile enough to help you at center in a pinch in case he's not the guy. And we damn sure don't want to have what happened to us what happened 2 years ago when we had, the dam break at center and we had to go out in the streets and we played like 5 different starting centers. I damn sure don't want that shit to happen. Be prepared. Be prepared. But I'm also saying, like, don't go out of your way to spend resources at the center position like they did last year and then draft a center, which is what they did last year, which was the stupidest thing ever. You got a center that you spent the 3rd round pick on. Now, these guys didn't spend the 3rd round pick on Ricky Stromberg. For all we know, Adam Peters didn't like Ricky Stromberg last year. We don't know what the hell he thinks of Ricky Stromberg. We don't know. We keep saying, well, he signed Ricky Stromberg. I mean, we drafted Ricky Stromberg last year. That don't mean shit to Adam Peters. He didn't draft Ricky Stromberg. He inherited Ricky Stromberg as a 3rd round pick. That's not his mess. He don't have to clean that shit up if he don't want to. Just like Emmanuel Forbes, 1st round pick. The difference is we know that staff liked him last year. They've all said it already. Joe Witt Jr., Jason Simmons, all of those guys have already talked about how they had high grades and thought highly of Emmanuel Forbes coming out of Mississippi State last year. We have heard no such thing about Ricky Stromberg, about KJ Henry, about any of these guys. So, can't really say. We did hear that about Quan Martin, though. Again, we did hear that about Quan Martin. So, no. To answer your question, I haven't watched Peyton Wilson, but what I can tell you is I've watched him indirectly watching games live. And in one game in particular, the Notre Dame game, he was flying around. And I've already talked about that one instance of him hawking down a receiver at Notre Dame, who isn't very fast, by the way, I may add. Still, he had no business catching this guy. And he hawked him down like literally the dude had like a 15-yard head start and Peyton Wilson caught him. And the dude caught it at like maybe the 45-yard line, the plus 45, and should have scored a touchdown. And Peyton Wilson caught him but before he got to the 10-yard line, caught him at like 12. So yeah, his speed is different. It's noticeable. I'll tell you, it looks like Devin White. You know how explosive we talked about Devin White? That's another thing that didn't happen today, but we knew it wasn't going to happen, is that the Bucs didn't do anything with Devin White, and they're not going to re-sign Devin White. He will not be back in Tampa. He's another guy that's a wild card, former 1st-round pick, former top 5 overall pick. Another guy that I'm looking at all these recycled former 1st-rounders. I'm saying, hey, collect all of these dudes like Pokemons. Collect them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Free agents. Catch all of their asses. Former 1st-round picks. Catch all of them. Bring all of their asses to Washington. You damn right. Sign me up. They ain't forget how to play football. Tell you that damn much. I like Peyton Wilson a lot, though. And the biggest thing with him was the neck. He had a neck injury. Same with Latu. Like, the medicals needed to check out. Peyton Wilson, he reminds me a lot of Leighton Vander Esch. A more athletically gifted Leighton Vander Esch. We've seen how good Leighton Vander Esch has been in his career. But Leighton also has what? The neck issues. And that shit scares me because those usually don't go away, right? You're always 1 hit or 2 away from being right back dealing with that, right? Chris Samuels had to retire early because of that. Leighton Vander Esch still dealing with that. Like, I always am leery of dudes with neck issues. That's a little scary for me. Anyway. Navy Ramjet, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Navy Ramjet writes, Lou, hope all is well. Likewise, Navy Ramjet, who writes, hopefully we can be realistic about free agency. Tags always remove the sex appeal, facts, but not the substance. Absolutely. Feeling a Jay Jackson, so I'm assuming, is that the former Patriots corner? JC Jackson is, I'm assuming who you're talking about, who got cut. How old? JC got to be getting up there, though. You know what? I'm feeling JC's got to be like 28, 29. I could be wrong, and JC could be 27. JC's feeling real 28, about to turn 29-ish, though. Let's see. Could be wrong about that. About to check right now. I'm actually curious now. JC is 28 years old, and he will be 29 in November. So, I don't know about that one, but I wouldn't be upset if that's the direction they decided to go in. But that's another dude coming off of a injury-marred season at 28 years old. I don't know about that one. But, Danielle Hunter, 30 years old, right? Very productive. Could have a lot of good football left in front of him, but he's 30 years old and he's going to cost a lot of money. Don't really know if that's the direction you want to go in. Jamal Adams is interesting. How old is Jamal Adams? He's a head case, though. He turned me off last year with his antics, talking about that dude's wife, and he showed me he's a head case. I don't think that's the kind of guy we need to be targeting, especially one that can't stay healthy. Then, he pushed the medical staff when he had the concussion. They ain't got shit to do with your concussion. Why are you pushing them? They trying to help your dumb ass out. So yeah, I'm off on him. Like, I'm good on him. He got to be up there too, though. He's 28 and he'll be 29 in October. He a damn head case, though, but he's talented. He's talented as all get out, but I don't know about him. He's a little iffy. And Alshire could get us going 2 or 4. Alshire is definitely in the mix. We talked about him as a guy that could be a free agent target. I could see him being in the mix. Of those other 3 guys, J.C. Jackson, Danielle Hunter, and Jamal Adams, Adams would probably be the one that would be the most likely. And I don't know if he has options like he once upon a time, but I remember him wanting to be a guy that played for a winning team. He spent the early portion of his career with the Jets and didn't even know what the playoffs looked like. Got to the Seahawks his first year, made the playoffs, and he cried when they clinched the playoff spot. He wants to win bad. This might not be the spot for him, right? Because this ain't like an overnight sensation destination. We not, more likely than not, I can't say we won't, but the likelihood is we not turning this thing around in year one. We not winning 11, 12 games in 2024. So I don't really know if that's like, again, when you're a guy like Jamal Adams, that's why I'm more interested in the former failed first round picks, because they not out here being choosy. They like, man, can I get some work, bro? I just need somebody to believe in me again. Like, those are the best ones, because they're like fixer-uppers, but mentally, you could get them to run through a wall for you if you get them to if you can get them to believe again. They'll run through a wall for you, and they got the talent. I don't know. We'll see. Commanders Chaplain Rev Rashid Fry. Thank you for being a member for 29 months. Hey, Lou. Praying all is well with you and the family. Likewise. Likewise. Have you heard the rumor that Jay Daniel hates Peters and doesn't want to come to Washington? That's not even a real rumor to me. I told y'all, I warned y'all about this. I talked about this. I've been talking about this for years. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man Louie T. I told y'all to be careful out here in these streets. These social media streets are dangerous. Every hallway got some crack in it. Don't get trapped in it. Right? I've given you all of the warnings that I could give. I said, do me a favor, save some of your brain cells, because it's a lot of shit that will kill your brain cells senselessly out here. Don't devote precious time. I tell the young youth of America, time is a non-renewable resource. Be very selective with what you give your time to. You can't get that shit back. Somebody sent that shit to me, and the person that sent it to me, they sent it to me, but they also was like, it's lies, right? They had a gif of Candy from Escape going, lies, lies. And I told him, you a smart man, right? Because I read that garbage. You really think that's true? You know what I'm finding out right now, and this is becoming a bit disheartening, not for the kid, but because we do this every year with the draft, and this shit it's old, man. This rap is old. This shit is tired. But we get to the draft, and this is what happens every year. The top guys, the guys that we know are going. We did this with CJ Stroud last year in the test. Will Levis was moving up, down, all around, and ultimately ended up not going in the first round, right? People will pick apart this, that. They'll try to dig into your personals. And Jaden Daniels and his team had to come out today and dispel a rumor. Not this dumbass shit that we talking about right now, because this ain't even real. Somebody typed this shit on their phone, screenshotted it, put it on social media, and this is the part that sucks. Is people don't vet nothing. People run with everything. They retweet it. They don't, again, y'all help perpetuate a lot of this shit when y'all do that, by the way. I'm not retweeting nothing that is stupid as hell that I don't, I'm not retweeting none of that shit. I just look at it and laugh and keep it pushing. But you'd be surprised at how this shit disseminates. Somebody said this, a lie will travel faster than the truth on social media. I think the number was a lie will travel 6 times faster than the truth. I think I watched the documentary that said that. It might be faster than that. 36 times faster. You can't compete with that. Once upon a time, people used to get their news from the news, either the radio or on television. That's how you got your news, so you knew the shit was real. Even if it was propaganda, at least you knew where it was coming from. You could vet the source. It was Dan Rather. It was Tom Brokaw. Now, anybody could be breaking news on, so it could be a 12-year-old in his mom's kitchen making some fish sticks and tweeting out some bullshit before he goes to soccer practice. And you wouldn't know the difference. Jaden Daniels and his team had to dispel a notion that he didn't want to go to New England. Which this whole discussion that you're talking about would suggest that he doesn't want to come to Washington. Well, damn, if he don't want to come to Washington and he don't want to go to New England, where the hell does he want to go then? Last time I checked, guys are trying to go as high as they can possibly go. You know why? Because you get paid more money when you go higher in the draft. So do you really think I'm going to allow a conversation, which never happened, with Washington GM from a year ago? Reportedly, this happened last year because Brandon Ayuk, who's on the San Francisco 49ers, our GM, all right, was in San Francisco, as you all know. So apparently, and I used to play with Jaden Daniels when they were at Arizona State. So, people trying to make these stories up so that you can kind of connect the dots. You fill in the blanks yourself, right? This stupid ass shit. So Adam Peters is in San Francisco. And Jaden Daniels is friends with Ayuk. So he asks, Adam Peters, what do you think about me coming out in the draft, yada, yada. And he tells him, I don't think you're ready to come out. You wouldn't be higher than a 5th round pick. Bullshit. He wouldn't tell him that, even if he thought that, right? He wouldn't tell him that. That's why they have the NFL Draft Advisory Board, so that people don't give you information like that. You go to the Draft Advisory Board and they'll tell you what your draft status is. It may not turn out, but that's the prevailing thought is this is how they feel about you. You come out right now, you a 2nd round pick. You come out right now, you a day 3 pick. So you get the information, you do with that whatever you would like, and you make an informed decision based off of what was told to you. Ain't no way in hell Jaden Daniels is like, I don't want to go to Washington because last year Adam Peters said I wasn't any better than a 5th round pick. Bullshit. That shit don't even sound real. So apparently it was supposed to be one of the junkies, Eric Bickle, who told this story. Again, bullshit. I'm calling bluff on all of it. Don't waste your time. You don't waste. I won't waste yours. You don't waste mine. Don't waste your time. So, yeah, I'm not buying any of that shit. Neither should you. Neither should you. Calvin Krim. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, focus on the best center and left guard in free agency and then tackle in the draft. Again, I think we're fine at center. Until you tell me otherwise, I'm going to just roll with the dude we drafted last year. He played in the SEC. I think he can play in the NFL. And then I think they're going to get a guard in free agency. Get you a left guard in free agency. And then, like you said, tackle is probably where you're going to really have to do damage in the draft. And however you decide to go about that, you go about that. But I'd be lying to you if I told you I wasn't a little bit concerned about not having a tackle on the roster right now. I'd be a little concerned. I'd be lying to you. Because this ain't the free agency crop to need one. And while this is a deep draft at tackle, and you probably can find you 2 starters in the draft, it's hard to find 2 starting tackles in the draft, in the same draft. And we need so much stuff. I don't want us to be so fixated, because this is what's happened to us in the past. With Rivera in particular, we were so fixated on one position in particular. We were so bad there the year before. We got to have one the next year, that we passed up on other talented football players to make sure that we got that one position taken care of. And when you do that, usually you end up with Mozzie Smith, like the Cowboys just did. Oh, we struggled to stop the run. We need interior defensive line help so bad. You pass up other talented football players to take Mozzie Smith. Or in our case, you pass up other talented football players to take Jamin Davis. You pass up other talented football players to take fill in the blank. I don't want to do that anymore. I just don't. And if you go into this draft without a starting tackle at all, you feel compelled to spend a 2nd round pick on at least one of the tackles. And again, the value may be there because it's a deep tackle draft class. I'm not telling you not to get a tackle in, but you still need another one. If you don't get one in free agency, if you don't trade for somebody, if you don't do something, you still need another one. Do you bypass edge rusher? Do you bypass tight end? Do you bypass corner, nickel? Do you bypass linebacker? Do you bypass, receiver, fill in the blank? It's a lot of other really talented positions. And again, some of these are deep, and you don't necessarily have to do anything that early. I get it. But I'm quality over quantity. So many of you want to trade back, 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 trade back. That's fun. At some point, you got to draft guys, though. You want 5 fifth rounders? Because you can have all the damn fifth rounders you want. You keep getting fifth rounders. Knock yourself out. You can have a bunch of Derek Forrests and Cam Cheesemans and, you know, all of those. Man, knock yourself out. Knock your socks off. What do you want? 6 rounders? You want some 6th round? You want some 7th rounders? You want to keep trading back, pick up late round draft picks? You want to stockpile? You want a whole bunch of those dudes? Because you can get you. There's plenty of opportunities if you want to keep trading back. So you can end up with what's my man name that was returning punts for us a couple years ago? The white dude from BYU. Well, I can't think of his damn name. Or who are the 2 edge rushers we got in the 7th round with him? Right? We had 3 7th round picks that year. 2 edge rushers. Neither of them made a dent, by the way. And then we had the receiver. And he ain't do shit either. You want those picks? Knock yourself out. I'm not trying to trade back 18 times and end up with 4 4th round picks, 5 5th round picks, and 3 7th rounders. Dax Milne. Yeah, thank you. Dax Milne. I'm trying to get guys that are actually needle movers, difference makers. The further back you go, the less likely. I'm not telling you can't. I'm just saying it's less likely you won't get the guys that are needle movers. Shaka Tony, thank you. I don't want to trade back and pick up a bunch of mid-round picks. I remember our then GM, Martin Mayhew, sold us on, hey, the real value in this draft is in the mid-rounds. We don't have any mid-round picks, so we need to trade back. And they did. And I wasn't mad at it. I understood the logic there. We'd given away our, 2nd round and 3rd round picks in previous, or I think it was a 3rd round pick in the previous draft. And so all we had was a 1st, a 2nd, no 3rd, a 4th. I don't know if we had a 5th or not. And so, yeah, I got it. I understood why he did what he did. Traded back from 11 to 16. Got that 3rd round pick that we were missing. It turned into Brian Robinson Jr. Picked up an additional 4th rounder, I believe. Then they flipped that 4th rounder, traded back again. That turned into Cole Turner and Sam Howell. And yeah, we all know the story. We all know the story. How'd that shit work out for us? How's that working out for us right now? All I know is I'm watching a lot of guys, and I still believe in Jahan Dotson, by the way. So let's just make that abundantly clear. But we passed on an opportunity to draft a lot of guys for the sake of moving back and picking up picks. Yeah. So we could draft the Darian Mathis in the 2nd round. Now we got Brian Robinson Jr. I'm not mad at that. But we could have got Kyle Hamilton. It's a number of other guys that we could have got that we didn't get. I think somebody said that Trent McDuffie was one of the guys that we could have gotten when we traded back. I think he went 14th in that draft or something like that. I could be wrong. It might not be that same draft, but there were other players that we could have gotten, is all I'm saying. I don't want to trade back. And the further back you go and the more you sacrifice early, the more it's going to cost you late. That's all I'm saying. So I'd be lying to you if I told you I wasn't a little nervous about not having a tackle on the roster at all right now that moves the needle. I'd be lying to you. Ramon Bounds. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Ramon writes, if we don't acquire the positions we need in free agency period, do you think we consider trading back to address positions of need in the draft? Everything's on the table. And our GM, Adam Peters, has said as much. All options are on the table right now, but they're taking a quarterback at 2. Now, could they trade back in the second round? Sure, they could. I don't think they're trading back with that first pick in the second round. Now, what I will say is, if somehow, and I really don't think this is going to happen at this point, looking at the way the landscape of the NFL is kind of sizing up, I think we might see our first ever draft with 6 dudes at the quarterback position going in the first round. Penix is the guy that's on the outside looking in, and I could easily see a team saying, hey, let's just go ahead and take Mike right now. Stop playing. I can see a team doing that. If that doesn't happen, though, let's say cooler heads prevail. We do this shit every year. I talk about quarterbacks getting pushed up, and every year, you know, we push a couple of them up, but then there's a Will Levis that goes and does what he's supposed to do and ends up in the second round, right? All this crazy shit. This guy could have been the number 1 pick at one point. People were talking crazy. And justice is served, and he ends up going in the second round. If that happens this year and only 4 go in the first round, and there's no Bo Nix and there's no Michael Penix Jr., all of a sudden, those picks early in the second round become hot. We're going to make it hot like fire. Hot like fire. It's going to get hot. And all of a sudden, you can do some damage with those picks. That's the only way I would be willing to trade out of my first pick in the second round. Where does Washington actually select? Washington Commanders draft picks. Let's see where we actually are in the second round. 36. So we are the 33, 34, 34th pick in the second round. That's a great place to be. You'd rather be at 33 or 34 if that scenario that I just brought up happens, because that's where the action is more likely going to take place, at the very top. Now, if you're Carolina, I think you have no choice but to do a deal with somebody, because you don't have a first round pick and you don't have a ton of draft capital. You need all the picks you can get. So if somebody hits your line and says, hey, bro, I need that quarterback at the top of the second round, what's it going to take? You do that. But if Carolina's like, yo, there's a stud receiver here, we got to take him, or it's a, you know, stud tackle, etc. We got to do something to help Bryce Young. We can't move. Sorry, not sorry. Then it gets interesting for a team like Washington at 36. But I think you're not going to see a situation that Washington is in where they can move off of 36. And I think they're going to end up making a selection at 36. So I said all of that to say this. Is there a trade back scenario for Washington? Absolutely there is. Absolutely. Will they be interested in trading back? Don't know. Don't know. They're not trading back at number 2. If that's what you're suggesting, if that's what you're insinuating, no, they're not trading back at 2. But trading back anywhere else in the draft is all on the table. Both seconds, both thirds, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all on the table. All on the table. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy Chris, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Chris writes, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Hey, Lou. What's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the fam. Likewise, as always. Really, truly do appreciate you. 2 parts. 1, who do you think will be the right tackle and swing tackle for this team, and why? Draft or free agency? And then 2, where do you see Russell Wilson landing? Steelers, Falcons, Raiders, and Vikings, and why? So I'll answer these in reverse. So I saw a report today that said the Steelers are not interested in any of the free agent quarterbacks. Not interested in Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, or Baker Mayfield. We're like, nah, we good on all of those dudes. So that must mean they're focusing in on the draft. Like, we're not doing this veteran quarterback, thing where we got to spend unnecessary money. Now, Russ ain't gonna cost you a whole hell of a lot, but they like, nah, we good. We good. So that either is a vote of confidence for the quarterbacks that are already on their roster, Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett, or that's them saying, hey, we good. One of these 6 quarterbacks is going to fall to us in the draft, so we not tripping. And we willing to spend a first-round pick on one of these quarterbacks. And they're right about that. All 6 of them aren't going to be gone by whatever pick the Steelers are at in the draft. Okay? Whether that's 18 or 16 or 9, wherever the hell they are, one of those 6 quarterbacks will be available. So they're saying, nah, we just going to wait. One of them will fall to us. As far as Russell Wilson, so it ain't Pittsburgh. It ain't Minnesota. I can tell you that right now. It's Kirk Cousins or it's one of these young quarterbacks for the Vikings. Baker Mayfield would be a better fit in Minnesota than Russell Wilson. All right. So it ain't Russ. It ain't the Vikings, I should say. The Falcons and the Raiders are interesting. The Raiders in particular, because that's more of a veteran team ready to win now. I think a young quarterback going to Vegas kind of sets them back, because you got guys like Devontae Adams who wants to win desperately, and we saw that last year. And I don't know if bringing in a rookie is going to put you where you need to be for the timeline of that roster as it's constructed right now. That said, I don't know if Russ is the answer in Vegas or not, but he could be an option for the Raiders. He could be an option for the Raiders. And then the Falcons, I just think they're in a really good position to get a quarterback. So I still think Justin Fields to the Falcons makes the most sense. So I'm taking Russ out of that equation and saying it's either the Raiders or it's nobody. That's what it kind of feels like right now. And, I love that Russ is still trying to act as if it's Russ from 4 years ago where he got options. I want to go to a team that's a winner. Bro, you want to go to a team that's willing to give you a job. It's to the point now where you could go in on a vet minimum and this team's like, nah, we good. Think about how far you've fallen from grace. You shouldn't fix your lips to be choosy or picky about nothing. The first time your phone rings and somebody's willing to give you a shot, you should be excited. Your shit could be over, bro. Like, think about it. Like, it's highly unlikely that Russell Wilson, because of it not costing you anything, it's highly unlikely that he doesn't end up on the NFL roster. But if you sign Russell Wilson, you can't sign Russell Wilson and tell him he's competing for a starting job. If you sign Russell Wilson, no matter how minuscule the money is, he's coming in to start. And it's not that he's messy, but mess follows Russell Wilson. We've seen that already. So I think it's Raiders. That just by the process of elimination. Now, as far as who do I think will be the right tackle and the swing tackle for this team and why, I don't know who those options will be. Now, you may be able to get you a swing tackle in free agency. I think they can handle that because swing tackles aren't the guys that we talk about when we're compiling these lists of players that we're interested in. The swing tackle is Cornelius Lucas. Who, raise your hand if you would have brought up Cornelius Lucas 3-4 years ago when he got signed here in Washington the first time. Raise your hand if you was thinking about Cornelius Lucas. Ain't no damn hands up out there, man. Like that it's never that guy. When Ty Nsekhe was brought here to be the swing, nobody was thinking about Ty. We didn't even know who the hell Ty Nsekhe was. Those guys make the best swing tackles. So it's one of those dudes that's floating around out there that'll end up being the swing tackle. You still got, I think the guy that we had last year from the Steelers might still be on the roster. He may not be. But that's the kind of guy that ends up being your swing tackle, right? So one of those dudes is out there that you can find. And maybe I'll have a list of those guys, on Thursday's show. We doing a deep dive on Thursday, so for free agency. But as far as the starting right tackle, that guy's coming out of the draft. I think it is more likely that Washington finds their starting right tackle in the second round than it is their starting left tackle in the second round. Make it make sense, Louie T. All the left tackles are going to be gone. The ones that have that type of value probably going to be gone by the time we are selecting at 36. That's my guess. We talked about 7 the tackles potentially going in the first round, anywhere from 7 to 10. And I don't think that's a stretch. I don't think that's reaching. I legitimately think 7 or 8 tackles go in the first round. But I'll just say 7 to 10. But I've always said that quarterback and tackle, those two positions in particular, are a supply and demand position or positions. When there's supply, there's always a demand. Always. It ain't never a draft where you see teams like, nah, we good. We got tackles. We straight. Ain't never a draft like that. It ain't, and there's never a draft where teams don't need quarterbacks. It's only that there is no supply. Like 2022, when only one team took a quarterback in the first round. Nobody took a quarterback in the second round in that draft. None. Okay. But there was a demand, because as soon as the third round hit, 18 teams took a quarterback. So there was definitely a demand. There just wasn't a supply. And it don't matter what draft. You go look as far back as you want. You're going to see at least 5 tackles go in the first round in every draft, if not more. Go back 10 years, go back 7 years, you do whatever you want. There's always going to be a tackle demand. And there's the supply this year at both quarterback and tackle. So you're going to see the needle move for both positions. And by saying that, most of those left tackles are going to be gone, long gone. Which is going to leave you in a position where you could draft a dude and flip him. But I'm not going to bypass a right tackle in pursuit of a left tackle. So I might have a grade of 88 for this right tackle, but the next left tackle on my board is an 82. I'm not bypassing the 88 right tackle to get to the 82 left tackle, because all of the guys with the higher grades, the 86 and the 88 and the 90 and the 91 and 90, all them dudes gone already. All them dudes went in the first round. I'm not bypassing the 88 right tackle to get to the 82 left tackle. I'm not doing it. I think you're more likely to end up with your starting right tackle in the second round than you are your starting left tackle. That's my guess. Whomever that first pick is in the second round, because I think ultimately our first pick in the second round is going to be a tackle. That's my guess. Again, the board is going to speak to us and determine what it is we do. But the likelihood is it's going to be a tackle. The beauty of it is you don't have to. If the value isn't there, you got another second round pick, 7 picks. What's the next pick? 36. I'm about to start learning our picks too. 40. 4 picks later, you got another pick. You ain't got that far to go, right? 4 more picks later, you got another pick. So if you don't love the tackles that are available at 36, maybe you feel better about one at 40. So you take whatever is there at 36. You feel good about that. Get the best value. This is a guy that had a late first round grade. Take that guy. Don't take the tackle if the tackle has a mid second round grade. Don't take the tackle. Take the guy that had the late first round grade, and we'll figure out the tackle at 40. So I think the starting tackle, right tackle on this team is going to come from the second round. That's what I think. Now, if you get, Mike Winanu, right? Now he's your right tackle. You get Mekhi Becton, he's your starting left tackle. Now all you need is a right tackle. Free agency is going to help determine potentially what we look to do in the draft and how aggressive we are. We do nothing at tackle, then we're going to be a little bit more aggressive. If we do something in free agency, and again, Mekhi Becton isn't like the end-all be-all answer, but if they go out and sign him, they're assuming he's going to be their starting left tackle. That's my guess. They want him to compete. Not saying that they just wouldn't draft, and they still might draft 2 tackles. I would actually advise you to draft 2 tackles. Don't forget Braden Daniels. I don't know what that even means. I don't even know what that means. I'm going to say it one more time. I don't even know what that means. But Braden Daniels is still on the roster. They did spend a 4th round pick on him last year. I got to stop saying they, because that group ain't here no more. Again, Adam Peters could give 2 shits about Braden Daniels. Might not even see him as a tackle. Might think he's a guard. Who's to say? He might have thought Braden Daniels sucked ass last year. We don't know. But I must mention that he was on the roster last year. So, anyway, I digress. King of the Bluegrass, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. King of the Bluegrass writes, what about Sam moving back to tackle? That's a possibility. I thought about it, but which one looked better to you? Sam at guard or Sam at tackle? Which one looked better to you? Because I love me some Sam at guard. The Sam at tackle, he's all right. Yeah, I mean, he's better than what we had last year, right? But that's a low bar, once again. I'd much rather have Sam at guard than Sam at tackle. So, and when it comes time to pay Sam, if he's Sam the guard and not Sam the tackle, it's easier to retain him too. So I thought about that. I think that's an idea worth kicking around, but I thought about it for all of 2 seconds. I was like, man, I wonder if Sam can go back to tackle. And I was like, nah. Sort of like your girl on Coming to America at the end. He was like, if you don't want all of this, you can give it all back. And she thought about it for a second and she got, nah. That's how I am. Nah, I'm good. Yeah, he's a guard. Twin D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Twin D writes, hey, LT, what's going on, Twin D? Hope all is well. Likewise. Where are we with our strength and conditioning team? Can we steal away Penn State's? Good one. I'll tell you this much. If we got Penn State strength and conditioning, I bet you Penn State's weight room and their facilities are way better. They shit probably state of the art compared to the shit we got in Washington. They shit probably state of the art. The best weights money can buy, the cleanest facility. Our shit is all run. It's probably all run down compared to Penn State's. I mean, anyway, that's a good one, man. That's funny. On another note, everyone should subscribe to MusicHead University. I thank you for that opportunity for the shameless plug. I'll take it. You threw me the alley. I'm going to go ahead and dunk it home. If you haven't already done so, and you're a fan of music of any kind, MusicHead University is where you want to be. Now, again, it's a combination of me, your man Louie T, rambling and doing what I do best, and my love of music. So you fuse the two together, and voila, MusicHead University is born. And that's what it is. And if that intrigues you, sub up my other YouTube channel, MusicHead University. I have 2 passions outside of my family and my loved ones, friends, etc. Football, sports, but football in general. Sports in general, but football in particular. The NFL. Let me get even more specific. Not the XFL, or the USFL. I've seen some of the, what's the name of the Washington team starting to creep into the comment section. I saw DJ Swearinger with a pick at practice yesterday. Somehow that shit creeped into my timeline. The Defenders, right? That's their name, right? People keep trying to get me to watch their games hey, man, you should check out the Defenders, man. I'm good. Thanks. I tell y'all that every year. But I'm an NFL fan and I'm a music lover. So those are my two passions. And MusicHead University is the other channel that I have. So if you haven't already subbed it up and you're interested in that, please, by all means, check it out, sub it up. You won't be sorry. But I appreciate that, Twin D. I would love to know what's going on with that Penn State strength and conditioning coach. If he's available, man, sign me up. Hey, Dan Quinn's been charming everybody and getting them to come to DC. Hey, he need to hit up that Penn State strength and conditioning coach. That would definitely hit me up. He definitely need to hit him up. And I seen one of y'all up there talking about where the country music at. You know damn well I don't do country. That's the one thing that I don't do. So I don't want false advertisement. I don't do every genre. Just about. Country is one that and you know what? Country music probably isn't even that bad, but just not my thing, not my cup of tea. I do just about everything else though. 1-6 Devil Doc. Man, it feels like it's been a while. 1-6 Devil Doc. Been a member for 30 months. Lou, thank you again for everything you do. I appreciate you, 1-6 Devil Doc. I don't know how you have the time to look at film. You may need to drop a top 30 prospect breakdown when you get to the receiver position instead of your top 7. Laughing my ass off. Bro, it's going to be crazy. I'm going to fly through them receivers. I love watching the receiver position. And it doesn't take me long because I love it and I know what I'm looking for, right? So not that I don't have a preference and things that I'm looking for at the other positions, but when you love something, like you're in there, right? And receiver, I love it. I love watching the receivers, and I'm gonna have a blast with that. And it's gonna be a bunch of them, and I know I'm gonna have to do my homework on, like you said, about a good 20 to 25 of them because I do the first 2 days of the draft live with you guys in order to know about these guys. I remember last year, there were a few guys that got taken. I didn't know who they were. I didn't make it to them. And this year, that's not going to happen. I'm going to be all over it. So it's going to be a lot of them. And because just like we talked about with tackle, 6 to 8 receivers could go in the first round. And that's not new news. That happens quite often. Again, that's another supply and demand type of position. Sometimes, though, with that particular position, unlike quarterback and tackle, you'll get teams that are like, yeah, I'm going to just wait, though. It's a bunch of them. I'm going to just wait. Let me go ahead and grab this tackle. While y'all worried about receiver, I'm going to grab this tackle. That's not going to be the case. We're going to see 2 receivers go in the top 10, bare minimum, maybe 3, depending on where who goes second, whether it's a Dunze or Neighbors, and then where that third guy goes. Anybody's guess. The assumption is 3 of them end up in the top 10, but I'm going to just say 2 to be on the safe side, accounting for 4 quarterbacks going in the top 10, and then probably 2 tackles, maybe 3 in the top 10. I'm going to say 2 tackles going in the top 10, 4 quarterbacks, 2 receivers. That's 8. Might be a corner in there. Usually there's an edge rusher in there, right? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. King of the Bluegrass, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, yep, that was me. Yes, McDuffie, that was you. I remember you saying, because nobody else was talking about McDuffie, Trent McDuffie that year. And you was like, hey, everybody was talking about this guy, that guy, that guy. I wanted Trent McDuffie. Boy, he's a stud. Boy, that's exactly what we need. And he was sitting there and we didn't take him. Obviously, we were fixated on receiver. It was so bad, like it was Terry and then it was nobody else, because that was the year that we went out and we signed Curtis Samuel. He got hurt and we were right back to where we were the year before. And they vowed to not be that way again. And I just don't want to be in that position where you got tunnel vision because of what happened to you the year before. I want the best possible talent. That's how you get better. Not by searching for a clear need and despite the value or the lack thereof, I'm going to take this position because we need it. That's what keeps you mediocre. He says, yep, that was me. That talk about McDuffie, damn, I'm still bitter about that one. I trust these guys with the trade back, though. We'll see. I trust them. I'm going to give them every benefit of the doubt and every opportunity to prove why it is they've been put in the positions that they've been put in. And again, I got nothing but the utmost confidence in these guys' ability to field a competitive roster that we can be proud of pretty much every Sunday. May not win. It may not be pretty, but it'll be gritty. Might not be a dub, but it'll be a performance we can walk away saying, damn, in 2 years, this team's going to be hell to deal with. That's what I'm looking for. Like, it might not even be two. It might be like, man, next year, you fill in this blank, and that blank in this upcoming draft / offseason, free agency, whatever. Look out. You know, that's the feeling I want to have leaving this season is we did damage in the division. You know, we put them on notice, let everybody in the division know this ain't the same Dan Snyder Commanders, right? Like, this ain't that shit that y'all used to. We different over here now. And then after we finish letting everybody in the division know and put everybody on notice, I want to beat a team or two and win a couple games where we go, whoa, we would have never won that game with Rivera here. Never. And then and that'll let us know, hey, we might not be where we need to be yet, but we trending in that direction. I think they're going to field a team that'll make us feel that way. That's what I think. Maybe Ramjet, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? 5.5 quarterbacks, 7 O-linemen, 5 wide receivers / tight ends. I feel second round spillage. 5.5 quarterbacks. I don't even know what that means, but there could be. So you asking for spillage in the second round? That's a lot of spillage, bro. I don't know if you're gonna get the spillage you're looking for. I don't even think there's a first round tight end in this draft, other than Brock Bowers, of course. I think he'd be the lone tight end to go in the first round. Outside of that, I think that you can wait on the other tight ends. So, like last year where there was like 3 or 4 dudes we were trying to push into the first round. And how many actually went in the first round? Like 2 of them, maybe? I think did the Packers take one in the first round? I know the Bills did. I think those were the only 2 that went in the first round last year. But spillage is usually I've always said that spillage usually is reserved for those teams right outside of the top 10. So 11 to like maybe 15 or 16 or so is where you can receive a bit of spillage. After that, like if there's spillage, real spillage after the top 10, and the quarterbacks is ultimately what's going to determine spillage, because those are the ones that you shouldn't be accounting for. But if they get pushed up, they're the ones that's going to bump a really good, talented player out of the top 10 where he belongs. My example is always Marshawn Lattimore. That's what spillage represents. Generally, you clean up that spill by the time you get to the 20s. The teams that have the opportunity to benefit because of it, they're going to eat and they're going to clean up that spill. You're not going to be able to feel the effects of spillage all the way at 36. No way. No way. Because there wasn't supposed to be any running backs. There wasn't supposed to be any safeties. There wasn't supposed to be any other tight ends than Brock Bowers. So what I'm telling you is other positions that we looked at as first round aren't going to be bypassed in pursuit of a quarterback or a receiver or a tackle. We weren't putting them in the first round anyway. So I get there's only 32 spots in the first round, and only so many can be quarterbacks, receivers, tackles, etc., corners, what may have you. But these were all players that we were seeing in the first round anyway. You know, we could talk about the fringe first round guy, but if he's a fringe first round guy, that means he could easily be a second round guy too. So that's not really truly spillage. Spillage is Marshawn Lattimore being a top 5 talent. And because of all the quarterbacks in his particular draft class, I believe it was a bunch of quarterbacks. I think that was the 18 draft, if I'm not mistaken. Because of all of the quarterbacks, and there were 5 in the top 10 that year. 4 in the top 10. Mayfield, Allen, Darnold, and Rosen. Because of all of that quarterback, all of those quarterbacks, he gets pushed out to New Orleans at 11. So yeah, that's what spillage looks like. Rarely does spillage occur into the second round. Rarely does that happen. Navy Ramjet, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? Jay Jackson. Oh, my bad. Jay Jackson equals Jonah Jackson. Okay, that makes sense. Guard from the Detroit Lions. I can see that. Now you're talking my language. Now that's 2 out of 4. That's 2 out of 4. I can see that happen. And I guess it wouldn't have been that much of a strain for you to use 2 more characters to put JC Jackson, right? Or 3 if you wanted to put the 2 periods after the J and the C, or you could have just put JC. So 1 more character wouldn't have killed you. So I should have known it wasn't JC Jackson. It was Jonah. But I wasn't thinking about Jonah Jackson. But yeah, I think he's a target. We talked about that already, though, on a previous show. He's in that mix when we're talking guards. There are plenty of them out there. I find it hard to believe that we don't come away with at least 1 interior offensive lineman out of this crop of free agents. There are going to be plenty of them to choose from. We're going to get our hands on 1 and alleviate that need as we have. And again, I can't spell this out for you guys enough. I've said this a million times. We're going to be very active in free agency. We only have 9 draft picks, guys. Okay. We only have 9 draft picks. We're going to go into this offseason. You can field a 90-man roster. I think we might have 30 guys on the roster right now. Again, we came into the offseason with like 21 free agents, and we just cut 3 dudes that weren't free agents. Okay? So understand that this roster is about to undergo a serious transformation. So we are going to be signing guys like our mind has gone bad, which is what I've been telling you for at least 6 to 8 months. No bullshit. I've been talking about this since last year. We're going to turn this roster over, and it's going to be crazy. Now, might not be a bunch of guys you're thinking about. Okay? Like I brought up a name that I know a lot of you probably haven't considered at defensive end, but Dan Quinn's considering him because Dan Quinn, coached him in Dallas, and that's Dorrance Armstrong. We might not be targeting the Bryce Huffs of the world, who we don't know if he can stop the run consistently or not. I don't know if I'm willing to pay Bryce Huff $17 million a year, and I'm not sure I can put him on the field on first and second down. He can get to the quarterback, but you paying that much money for a guy that only has 1 trick, which is get to the quarterback. That's it. Now, Grenard can do both. But I said all of that to say this. It's going to be a lot of, guys that you're probably not even thinking about. I hope to bring some of those guys to light on Thursday, because I'm telling you, we're going to sign within the first 2 to 3 days of free agency. I wouldn't be shocked if we sign like 13 dudes. I'm not bullshitting you. It's not going to be a whole bunch of household names and guys that are gonna move the needle. And I can see a lot of y'all coming back bitching. What the is this? What are we doing? This shit is like Rivera all over again. I can see a lot of y'all losing your shit. Absolutely losing your top over what's about to happen. I'm just trying to mentally, just like I tried to prepare y'all for Dan Quinn. When some of y'all were not ready. Turned out to be a blessing in disguise, but when it first, a lot of y'all were not ready. I was trying to prepare y'all. I'm trying to prepare you again. Jonah Jackson would be a nice addition, though. A welcomed addition. Miss P, been a member for 29 months. Who writes, I can put you on to 2 dope country artists, though. I can put you on to some dope country artists. Excuse me. She said, I can put you on to some dope country artists, though. And you're probably not wrong. My brother-in-law, my sister's husband, he loves country music. I just can't get with it, man. I just can't. It's just never resonated with me. So, and you better not, Miss P, you better not try to put me on in some Beyonce. King of the Bluegrass. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, King of the Bluegrass, who writes, I like the Becton idea. Do you think he's an upgrade over Leno Jr. when he walks in the building the way he is right now? From a talent perspective, absolutely he is. Now, from a production standpoint, no, I can't say that. No, I can't say that he is. But from a talent perspective, which is all you want at this point, all you're looking for is talent at this point. That's, if you're a fan of this team, you should be, because if you think you have a staff who can get the most out of talent, that's all you should be trying to acquire right now, which is why I'm interested in a Jeff Okuda, which is why I'm interested in a Devin White, which is why I'm interested in a Mekhi Becton. I'm interested potentially, and somebody brought this name up earlier, in an Isaiah Simmons, even though I haven't seen anything that suggests Isaiah Simmons is a difference maker in this league. He's a former first-round pick for a reason. He's got a unique skill set. I'm interested. If they think he's talented, former first-round pick, he didn't forget how to play football. Something hasn't clicked to this point, but that's why you got coaches. That's the point. And so, from a Mekhi Becton standpoint, is he better than Leno from a talent? Damn right he is. Charles Leno was a 7th-round pick coming out of Boise State. Mekhi Becton was a first-round top 15 pick for a reason. So, from a talent perspective, it's not even close. Leno could never sniff him on his best day. However, Leno has played this long in the league for a reason, as a 7th-round pick. Meanwhile, Mekhi Becton is over here looking for work as his rookie contract hasn't even expired yet. They didn't even pick up the 5th-year option. So he's going to have to find his way. And maybe Mekhi Becton's journey as an NFL tackle ends wherever he signs and he gets kicked inside the guard and he turns into another Eric Flowers and ends up being a damn good guard. Who's to say where his NFL journey takes him next? I know for sure I'm interested to find out. I'm willing to take a flyer to find out. I know he's talented enough. I'm intrigued. I'm interested. Sign me up. John Perez. Thank you for super. I'm going to just say this. A wise man once said, that's why you lift all them weights, right? That's why we got all them coaches. For guys like Mekhi Becton, for talented players like Becton. That's why you got all them coaches. Now let's see what they're all about. That's why you got O-line Bobby Johnson. Hey, Hey, John Perez, my guy JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy JP writes, sound like Washington loves Drake May from what I've heard the past couple days. He seems a little raw, but the talent is undeniable. I don't know who to believe. I don't know what Washington likes or doesn't like. I'm just choosing to keep my head down and keep grinding when it comes to the draft. I try not to get too caught up in what this person says about what Washington wants potentially, or what this person says, or, you know, I know what I like and what I've seen, and I'm going to stick to that. You know, others may feel this way or that way. You got people who think that Jaden Daniels is the #1 quarterback in the draft. You got, you know, you're going to get, you know, far out opinions, people who are looking to, you know, cause a stir, like a Merrill Hodge, who, you know, wants to trash Caleb Williams and say he's not, you know, worthy of a first round pick or whatever the stupid shit he said. You're going to get that too, right? This is why I tell you draft season is the most dangerous season of all the seasons, which is why you need to be careful. Does Washington love Drake May? Maybe. Does Washington love Jaden Daniels? Maybe. I don't know. Depending on who you ask. We'll find out in late April. Right now, my goal is to get through as many of these prospects as we can, see which ones are the best fit for Washington, go about that. Because this is the thing. There's over 400 prospects to choose from in the upcoming draft. Only 250 some odd of them, 256 or something like, are going to be selected. 3 of them are going to go at the top of the draft, and we know which 3 they are. It's either Caleb Williams, and he's going 1, and it's probably not to Washington. So it's really 2 guys, Drake May or Jaden Daniels. Am I going to obsess over which one of those 2 they're going to pick, or am I going to spend the bulk of my time searching through the other 397 prospects that exist that Washington will be picking from to see which ones we can get with our other 8 selections? That could change, and it could turn into 10 or 11, or it could turn into just 6 or 7, depending on what they want to do. Am I going to obsess over the 2 guys that is going to be potentially at 2, or the other, you know, 397 prospects that are out there that they could? And that's what I'm going to choose to do. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's going to be one of the 2. And I've already said this, and this is why I don't give a shit. I feel good about either one of them. I feel good about all 3 of the quarterbacks at the top of the draft. And if we got any of the 3, you're not going to make me feel bad about it. So that's where I'm at. Would I prefer Drake May? I've already told you. Yes, I would. I think his upside is higher. Is Jaden Daniels a product that I think you could take right out of the packaging, drop him in, and right away have a chance to compete? Yes, I do. More so than Drake May. Doesn't mean he's a better player. Just means he's ready to come in as a 6th-year starter. He's just ready to come in and play right away. More so than a guy that's only got 2 years of starting experience. We'll see if Washington loves Drake May. We'll see. Chippa, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Chippa writes, what's the chance we get Jamal Adams or Quandre Diggs? I think Adams is the more likely of the 2. Diggs is a really smart, heady football player, but Quandre Diggs is also 30 plus. My guess is Quandre Diggs is 31. That's my guess. 31, about to be 32 years old. Really good football player, though. But my guess is Quandre Diggs is north of 30 years old. 30. Oh my God, I'm so good at this. Quandre Diggs just turned 31 in January. He's 31 years old. I'm good on that. Like, he's a really good football player, but again, that ain't the direction we heading in, right? I'm not saying that we can't get any, veterans that are 29, 30, 31 years old. I'm just saying the likelihood that that's what we do is slim and none. I'm not saying it's impossible. Just don't see that being the case. Now, Adams, on the other hand, I think we already looked him up. He's 28, right? And he doesn't turn 29. I think we found out until like November. So he'll be 28 for a while here. He's intriguing, fast. You can blitz him. You can do some things with him. I could see him being a guy that, again, another former first-round pick. Those are the kind of guys that, but I don't think he is looking for a situation like Washington. I think he wants to win. So you ask me, could we end up with either one of those guys? My answer is no. I don't see it happening. Because I think Jamal Adams is more likely to try to go somewhere where he thinks he's got a shot to win. And that's not here in Washington right now. Jace Jackson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jace writes, what's good, Lou? What's up, Jace? I know it's very unlikely, but what do you think is a realistic trade for the one spot for Caleb? What's your take on it? Do you want to give it up for him or even want him that bad? I actually am kind of indifferent about that whole topic of discussion. For those who think that there's not a gap between him and the other two, I disagree. And we can agree to disagree. I think there is a gap. How sizable is that gap? Is it enough to warrant what would it take, what it would take to get up to one? That's the real question. But is there a gap between the three of them? Yeah, I think so. But the question that I would have to answer is the gap that is between Drake May, because that's who the second quarterback in the draft for me is, and Caleb Williams. Is it great enough to warrant what the Bears will be asking of Washington to go from 2 to 1? And in my mind, because I know there will be other suitors, it's going to drive the price up. I'd have to say, no, I'm not willing to do what it is they're asking me to do. But what do I think it would take? I've already said this, and I know me and my guy Derek B have had spirited conversations about this multiple times over, and Derek B is adamant. There's no way Washington would have to give up a future first-round pick to move up one selection. It's been done multiple times in the past, going from 2 to 1, and no one has ever had to give up a first-round pick the following year. So Derek B has made that very clear to me that he disagrees with my take that it's going to cost King's ransom to go from 2 to 1. Might cost an arm and a leg for the Giants to come up from 6 or wherever they are to 1 or 5 or wherever the Giants sit. It may cost the Falcons an arm and a leg to come up from 8 or wherever they sit to get to 1, but it won't cost us the same. My rebuttal to that is, if I know that I can do business with the Giants or the Falcons or the Raiders or the Vikings and get King's ransom, why would I do business with you? And, Washington can say, well, you can still be in the top 3. You'd be moving back 1 pick and you still get one of the best players in the draft. And the Bears go, and that's cool. But I still have my pick in the first round as well. I don't need the number 2 overall pick. You need number 1. You want this guy. I don't have to have him. So what are you willing to give me so that you can get what you want? Because other teams want this guy too. And I just think it's going to be more than I'm willing to give up. And I do think it would take an additional 1. So you'd be swapping ones and then you'd have to give up a 1 next year. I think that, and then some other pick, probably like a 4th or something. But I wouldn't be willing to do it. I wouldn't be willing to do it. Now, if they felt like Caleb was a 96 and Jaden Daniels and Drake May respectively are a 90 and 89, if there's that big of a gap, no. Yeah, trade a first round pick next year for it. I just don't think the gap is that wide myself. I don't think the gap is that wide. But if they think that, they need to do that. But again, this is all an exercise in futility. And you mentioned this. The Bears aren't trading the pick, right? So you said it's very unlikely, and it is. The Bears are going to stick with the one. They're going to take Caleb Williams, and that's what it seems like. That's what I'm assuming. That's what everyone else should assume until that's not the case. Looks like they're going to trade Justin Fields at some point, and so you got to assume that that's not even on the table for Washington. You're choosing between Jaden Daniels and Drake May at this point. JB, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JB writes, go Commanders. Hey, Lou, if they don't sign Curl, go ahead and get Kitchens. Same player, right? I can't say that it's the same player. But I think there are enough guys in the draft that offer you a similar skill set to that of Kam Curl where you don't have to pay him $15, $16 million a year. For a guy who hasn't proven to be a dynamic playmaker. He's a smart football player. He's where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. He's a guy that you can trust to get his job done. But he hasn't proven that he can uplift those around him, the play of others around him. He hasn't proven that he can be impactful in a game and make plays that turn the game in your favor. He hasn't proven to be able to do that. And that was always my biggest gripe with him, is that you can find guys to do the things that he does. He does a lot of the intangibles, but you can find intangible guys. Now, are they going to be as young and as smart and all that stuff? I don't know. But he's not, his athletic profile and his lack of playmaking, that kind of stuff. We're in a day and age now where the players come out bigger, stronger, faster. He doesn't fit that profile. And so there's plenty of guys in the draft that do. So yeah, I don't see him getting re-signed here. And I think he's seen the writing on the wall, which is why, he's sending out cryptic, messages, but the deuces isn't all that cryptic. It's like, hey, peace. It's been fun, but I'm out. That's kind of what it feels like. Burger the Butcher. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Burger the Butcher. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB writes. I'm seeing a lot of subtraction on this roster and not much addition. How much cutting is too much? These holes are holing. Oh, man, that's funny. These holes are holing. Yeah, so I told you it was going to be like this. Y'all thought I was bullshit when I told y'all. They finna clean house. They finna turn this shit upside down. You know how you get to the bottom of something that you just punish and you crushing that shit? Whether it's a bag of chips, some cookies or something, and you get to the bottom and you turn that shit upside down and there ain't really nothing in there but a few crumbs, if anything. That's what they doing in this route. They turn that bitch upside down. Anything loose in there, it's falling out. But watch what happens come next Wednesday. Watch what happens. See how many dudes they start signing here. That shit's going to make your head spin. You finna get knocked the F out like Mike Tyson. Telling you, watch what happens. We about to sign like 13 guys next week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You put that together and Washington would have signed 8 to 9 dudes. And when it's all said and done, like, because some of the dudes we sign are going to be on that second wave. You're not the guys you have to sign, when free agency first starts. So you could count us in for maybe 4 or 5 of those dudes. And then as the dust settles and the back end of that first week starts to clear out, we'll get busy a little bit, right? And then as that next week comes and that second wave hits, that's when you're going to see us going to town. And we might even, I remember when Rivera and them did this the first time when they got here in 2020, when they turned the roster over and a lot of y'all were losing your shit. They skipped all of the shit at the front of the store. All of the items that were in for the spring, that were new items on the floor that everybody's excited about. Yo, did you see that? Yo, that shit is crazy. They went past all of that. They was like, yo, excuse me. There go my rack right there. And they saw all of those orange tags and pink tags. They was like, yeah, that's what I need to be. Excuse me. I see J.D. McKissick and Logan Thomas and John Bostic staring at me on that rack. Watch out, man. Get out the way. Some of y'all going to be upset, okay? Because we're going to do a hell of a lot of shopping on that rack in the back. Not all of it is going to be done on that rack, but a lot of it is going to get done on that rack. And some of y'all are going to be upset. I can see it right now. I hate to say I told you so, but I'm going to be like, I told you so. I could be wrong, and they could go out and go spend a shit ton of money. I'd be shocked. I'm not telling you they're not going to spend on a couple of high-priced guys. I could see them spending on 2 or 3 guys, dropping 18, 19, even upwards of 20 million a year on a few dudes. I could see that happening. Wouldn't shock me in the least. But you're going to see more guys that are signed for 1-2 year deals, $5, $5.5, $6, $7 million, 2 years, $8.5 million. You're going to see a lot more of those deals than I think you're going to see those big ones, right? So we'll see what happens. But I told you it was going to turn this roster over. They ain't added nothing to this point, really. Couple of futures, right? Brought back a couple of dudes who didn't make the team last year, who were just hovering around the roster, brought them back, right? Signed one linebacker and then brought back the return dude from UCLA, right? So they ain't really done shit and been dropping dudes left and right. They going to get busy next week, though. That's for damn sure. Ash, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ash writes, where do you think all the free agent running backs are going? Saquon, I think the Texans, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's a great fit for him. I think he's heading there. Josh Jacobs is really interesting because he screams like Denver Bronco to me. Like he'd be the perfect back for Sean Payton, but I don't know if they're in a position to spend on a running back. They signed Samaje Perine last year, and they drafted Javonte Williams, and they drafted another dude, I think, as well, not too far after that. So I don't know if they're in a position, but he, like Denver, would be a great spot for him. Going through the list of teams in my head, who you know what? Minnesota needs a back. They just released Alexander Madison. So that's another back out on the free agent market. I could see Josh Jacobs in Dallas. I could see Josh Jacobs in Minnesota. That makes a ton of sense. So somewhere like that for him. Derrick Henry's name came up in terms of Dallas. I think Derrick Henry would make more sense in Dallas if Tony Pollard was still there, because you could have that 1-2 punch thing again with him and Zeke. But Derrick Henry is your lead back, as the guy you're counting on. And then the dude that they had from South Carolina last year, spelling Tony Pollard, it's like the same back. He's not Derrick Henry, don't get me wrong, but they're the same kind of speed in terms of, they don't both, neither of them offer you that crazy home run speed, even though Derrick Henry, you get him revved up, we know what he can do. But I could see Derrick Henry ending somewhere like Philadelphia or Dallas, somewhere like that. It wouldn't shock me. One of these contenders is the place he'd probably want to go. Tony Pollard is going to be interesting because, again, those same destinations I just talked about are, the same places that all these backs are vying for. Derrick Henry just left Tennessee. Somebody's got to go there to replace him, right? I mean, I know they drafted Tajay Sharp, and he played well last year, but he's Tajay Sharp, right? Like, somebody's going to Tennessee to replace him, whether that's Alexander Madison or Josh Jacobs or Tony Pollard, right? Somebody's got to go to Tennessee, you would think. So that's another place to keep in mind. The Giants are losing Saquon Barkley. Somebody's got to go there to replace him. They could draft a back, right? But they could also sign a back. And they designated $11 million to him last year. So they got the space for it, so you would think someone would end up there, right? Because it's all a game of musical chairs. You just replacing the guy that left. So Pollard leaves Dallas, somebody's got to replace him. Saquon leaves the Giants, somebody's got to replace him. The Raiders are losing Josh Jacobs, somebody's got to replace him. So maybe Tony Pollard ends up there, right? It's going to be one of those types of situations. That's what I think. You're just reshuffling the deck. Twin D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I'll be glad to retire my slogan, M&M boys. You mired in mediocrity. Yeah. You were heavy on that. These boys were mediocre as they come. So I'll be glad to see you retire that. I don't see us being comfortable with being mired in mediocrity. On that note, do you see a David Mayo landing on someone's roster this season? No, I don't. Now, all it takes is one coach that was on the Carolina roster that's somewhere else, that was a linebackers coach, or that, loves David Mayo and like this guy's a great roster guy, core special teamer. And so, yeah, I can see that. But Ronald Rivera's not in the league right now. He was the biggest David Mayo fan there was. I can see David Mayo being out of the league. So, yeah, I don't see him getting a job. How old is David Mayo anyway? He feels real 30-ish to me right now. Like he was 29 last year, and now he's about to be 30. If that's the case, he's done. If he's 28, which I know he ain't 28, he's got to be 30. But if he's 28, there's a chance. He's 30. Boy, I'm good at this game. Damn, I'm good at this game. And he's 30. He turns 31 in August. So he reminds me of the kid that showed up to pick up Martin Lawrence's daughter on Bad Boys 2. And Will Smith says, how old are you? Mother, you look 40, right? David Mayo, how old are you? 30? Mother, you look 50. You run like you're 50. Yeah, he's done. He's done. No, I don't see him on anybody's roster. King of the Bluegrass, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. King of the Bluegrass writes, New England signs Baker. The phone rings. It's Arizona. They're offering pick 27 and 4 to move to 2. For MHJ, do you say yes? If Arizona, if New England trades, if New England takes Baker, Arizona doesn't have to come up. Like, where's the logic there, King of the Bluegrass? I'm interested in your logic. Because if New England signs Baker, they're not staying at 3, my man. They're signing Baker because it gives them the ability to get King's ransom for the 3rd overall pick. They're not staying there to give Baker a weapon. It's plenty of receivers in this draft. I'm not bypassing an opportunity to trade back from 3, let some quarterback starving team come up to get the 3rd of whatever these quarterbacks are and move back and absolutely peel somebody's cap back blue. You really think they're going to stay there because they want Marvin Harrison Jr.? You're right. They signed Baker Mayfield. That is the moment that pick becomes the hottest in this draft. They are moving. Arizona can stay right at 4. There is no scenario. Listen to what I'm saying. Just like I said, there's no scenario where Caleb Williams isn't the number 1 overall pick. None. I told y'all that 3 months ago. There is no scenario. None. Where Caleb Williams isn't the number 1 pick. Listen to what I'm saying. There is no scenario where Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't on the board at 4. None. No scenario. Not a single one. Okay. 3 quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3 in this draft. No questions asked. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. No equivocations. Quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3 in this draft. I will come back and I will offer a double O if it doesn't go that way. The reason I tell you this is because the value is too great with those picks. You hold so much value. If you're not taking a quarterback, then you got to let somebody come up there and get a quarterback. It's too valuable of a pick for you to stay there and say, nah, I want Marvin Harrison Jr. That's the dumbest thing that anybody could do in this draft. Is pass up the opportunity to take the value that exists in that pick. There is so much equity built up in these picks that are being held right now by the Bears, the Commanders, and the Patriots. So if any of these teams go in a different direction, if the Bears decide they're sticking with Justin Fields, if Washington decides they want to sign a free agent quarterback like Kirk Cousins, if the Patriots decide they want to sign Baker Mayfield, if any of those teams go in a different direction for any reason, their picks become so valuable to teams like the Giants and the Falcons and the Vikings and the Broncos and the Raiders. There's too many teams that are dying to get up, to get one of these dudes that you can't stay there because you want Joe Alt or you want Marvin Harrison Jr. So what I'm telling you is Arizona doesn't have to move from 4 if they want Marvin Harrison Jr. Just stay there. He'll fall right into your lap. You don't have to trade up and give away your picks. Are you kidding me? For what? New England isn't signing Baker Mayfield so they can take Marvin Harrison Jr. If they sign Baker Mayfield, it's to trade back so they can fleece somebody so they can then get Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors and then still get 2 more first-round picks, caliber players, and go about it that way. That's what they'll be looking to do. So the phone isn't ringing with Arizona on the other end saying, hey, I need Marvin Harrison Jr. Move back to 4. Let me leapfrog New England, and you can have my 2 first-rounders this year because the Cardinals are like one of 3 teams, I believe, that have 2 first-round picks this year. I know the Bears do, they do, and I think somebody else has 2 first-round picks. Ain't no way Arizona doing that. That's what I'm trying to explain to y'all. It ain't happening, bro. So I don't even have to answer the question because the Arizona Cardinals ain't picking up the phone and moving nowhere because it ain't happening. But if they picked up the phone and they called to tell me that they wanted the 4th pick, you know what I would say? You damn right. You know why? Because guess what? This is why the shit don't make no sense. Right? This is why it don't make no sense. If you move back to 4 and you know the reason Arizona's coming up is to take Marvin Harrison Jr., what does that mean? You're still getting one of the 3 quarterbacks. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you not take that deal? You're still getting Jaden Daniels or Drake May. Only 3 quarterbacks can go in the first 4 picks if one of the picks is a receiver and you already know that. That's why it don't make any sense for Arizona to come up. And that's why Washington wouldn't turn down a deal like that because they're still getting the quarterback. And you're getting an additional first-round pick in the process of doing that. But that's not happening. Anyway. JLG. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JLG writes, I understand Jaden can be timid as a passer sometimes, but his off-script playmaking ability is too good to pass up. You say that meaning as a runner. He hasn't showcased his ability to hurt you with his arm on the move. That's one of my biggest concerns right now is that, yes, he scares. I saw Rich Eisen. I'm pretty sure all of you did. You saw Rich Eisen on his show, and he said the biggest takeaway for him from the combine, and if anybody you should listen to is Rich. Rich is plugged in. Rich knows what's being said. He's got the vibe. He's done the combine for over 2 decades. He knows what's being said out there, what's in the winds in Indy. And he said the biggest takeaway is that Jaden Daniels is the number 2 overall quarterback in this draft class, from what he's heard, leaving Indy. And he said the reason is because every defensive coordinator that you talk to, every guy in the SEC, every, XYZ said the same thing. He's a nightmare to have to game plan against. And it's not any different than defending Lamar Jackson. You stay up late at night knowing that this dude, I can call the perfect play defensively, and we can get to him, and all he has to do is break one tackle, or all he's got to do is elude one rusher, hit a gap, and oh shit. Oh shit. Here we go. A lot of green grass and not a lot of guys on the field who have the ability to catch him, 1, and 2, get him down if he catches them in space. People keep talking about he's a straight line speed guy. I'm not telling you he's out here juking dudes like Vic was once upon a time. That ain't what he's doing, but he got that subtle body control. He'll turn sideways on your ass quick. Get skinny real fast. He'll cut in real quick, I watched him make dudes. Guys wouldn't have got him in one-hand touch. I've seen him do that to dudes out in space. I saw him almost break a dude's leg in space. I showed y'all, if you're a part of the mob, I showed you the play. We watched it like 3 times. A dude trying to get to him, he cuts back on him, and the dude almost breaks his damn leg, hyperextends his shit, and don't get up. Yeah, he's tough to deal with. Nobody's denying that. But Kurt Warner said it best. Don't be fooled by all of the noise. And the noise is the playmaking ability, the escapability, the ability to run, this, that, and the third. The league is still won in the pocket. He's not wrong. The reason Lamar Jackson hasn't won anything of note is because at the end of the day, you still got to win the game from the pocket. And I'm not saying Lamar can't do that. And he's proven, because he's a 2-time MVP, that he's fully capable of beating you from the pocket. But when shit gets tight, we watched him in the playoff game throw in the triple coverage from the pocket and throw a pick in the end zone. You can't do that shit. You got to be able to win from the pocket. Yes, you want Patrick Mahomes when shit breaks down and Patrick decides to tuck it and run, or Patrick gets out of the pocket and he's throwing shit sidearm and from his shoe tops and no look passes. All that shit is cute. But what ultimately kills you is that Mahomes is going to make the right decision. Whether that's get it to Kelsey, use his legs, escape, extend, and then find somebody, he's going to kill you because he's going to make the right decision. But when it's time to get surgical from the pocket, he's going to do that too. Can Jaden Daniels do that? And when shit breaks down, can he make the right decision, not just with his legs, but with his arm too? And we haven't seen enough of that evidence yet. He's intriguing though. And again, if we took him, I would be ecstatic. I told you, there are pros and cons to all. None of these prospects, Caleb, Jaden, Drake, none of them are clean. They're all flawed in some way, shape, or form. But they all have real strengths that can be accentuated at the highest level and can play at a very high level. The question that I always go back to is, what's the ceiling? Because ultimately, that determines the value of a pick. What's the ceiling? For Caleb, it's through the roof because we see the Mahomes-like qualities from him. That's why you see him and you go, but you also say, can he do what Mahomes ultimately had to do, which was learn how to take the check down, learn how to play from within the pocket, learn how to play from within the structure and the scheme of an offense. We think it's going to be easy. Oh, he should be able to do that. Yeah. But you don't know if he's going to be able to do that. but a team would be foolish not to want to find out. Drake May. The upside is tremendous. He's got everything you're looking for. Caleb doesn't have size. Drake May does. You know, he's got the arm talent. He's got the athleticism. He's got the smarts. He's got everything, toughness, everything you're looking for. But the play is erratic. The footwork isn't great, but you can clean up footwork. You can clean up footwork. There's a lot of things that he needs to get better at, but they're fixable things. They're not things that are broken to the point where you go, bro, I don't know what we're supposed to do with that. So the upside is tremendous because you see Josh Allen and Justin Herbert-like qualities there. The ceiling is high. Then you get to Jaden Daniels, and you see the ability to be a game changer with his legs. You see him being pinpoint accurate, but you don't see the arm talent. You don't see him making off-schedule plays with his arm. There's questions about him throwing over the middle of the field. Those don't really concern me as much. I think he throws over the middle of the field enough, and he can, and he will if he needs to. I'm not worried about that. I'm more concerned with his arm isn't going to get any stronger than what it is now. It just is what it is. So he's going to have to rely on timing and rhythm and being on time. This ain't the SEC. This ain't Southwest Louisiana State where you can throw 27 passes and go 23 of 27 for 394 yards and 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. These are NFL dudes. And if you a hair late because your arm talent isn't as great, it's going the other way. But at the same time, when he's locked in, when things break down and he uses his legs, he adds a dimension that none of these other quarterbacks do. And that affects defenses. So all of them bring something different to the table. I don't know if you can just flat out say Jaden's ability to make things happen off script is by far and away the best of all three of these quarterbacks' qualities. And therefore, you have to pick him. You can't pass it up. I don't know if you can say that. But that's your opinion. I'm not here to change your mind or to tell you what you should think. I'm telling you, I don't necessarily feel that way. But it's an interesting discussion, right? One we'll probably be having all the way up until the final Thursday in April, more likely than not. Smack City, been a member for 19 months. Truly appreciate you. Who writes, May's approach to football is what you want in your quarterback. And, you know, I can't, this is the thing I won't try to do, is I won't try to get inside. And this is the thing that as a fan, you can't really know. You only know what you see. You're not talking to these guys. You're not talking to people that know these guys, like these scouts and these evaluators and these GMs and these team presidents and owners and et cetera, et cetera. You're not in these meetings. You're not talking to these people. You don't know. We don't know. We can only go off of what we hear, what we see, what we're told. And some of that stuff, everybody's got an agenda. That's how I always approach situations. Everybody, until you show me that you don't have an agenda, everybody's a suspect. So when somebody says something, I'm like, what's your angle? What's your deal? Why are you telling me this? Then you got to hit him with the Denzel. I'll just tell you like this. Nothing that any of these quarterbacks has done to this point have turned me completely off to the idea of them being here in Washington. Nothing that they've said, they've done. Jaden Daniels left the combine. I didn't love that decision, but who cares? Who cares? I don't. And maybe they have the reason why he left, and others don't care either. Maybe they don't have a reason why he left, and that's concerning. And you'll have a chance to ask him when you see him. Guess what? You'll meet him at the pro day and you can ask him then, or you can bring him in for a 30 visit and you can ask him then. Guess what? We'll never get a chance to ask him why he didn't stay at the combine. Who cares? So I know that I've heard May talk. I've heard his approach. I've heard Jaden Daniels talk. I've heard his approach to the game. Everything sounds good. Everything sounds like it's supposed to sound. Nothing's been out of the ordinary. Nothing's crazy. Even Caleb's answer about why he didn't do the medical, I'm okay with that answer. Anytime somebody challenges the establishment, the status quo, they're going to be criticized because this is the way we've always done it. He's like, bro, all of y'all don't need my medical information. A lot of y'all are either already have quarterbacks, aren't taking me, or you're not going to be in a position to take me. So why you need my medical information? The teams that need it, they'll get it. You know what? I'm not upset about that. And it's not that big of a deal. It's not like he said, nobody's getting my medical information. That would be a story. Now it feels like you're hiding something. He's like, no, the teams that realistically have a shot to draft me, and I'm meeting with them, and I'm not taking visits with 32 teams. I'm not taking visits with 20 teams. I'm taking visits with probably like 6 to 8 teams. And if they want my medicals, which they will, they'll get them. Okay. I'm okay with that. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy JP. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Devin White would be nice if the price is right, but he's truly got questions about his effort and whether he quit on bowls. And I talked about that, and that's something that you would have to sit down and discuss with him. And he's been adamant that he didn't quit on his team, and he's been adamant, but there's a reason Bowles sat him down. That's elite talent. You don't sit elite talent down unless there's some issues. And yep, we heard about freelancing. And a lot of times when dudes are super talented, you do get the freelancing thing. We heard the same thing with LeVar Arrington once upon a time when he was here in Washington. It's not too far-fetched that you get guys with extremely gifted skill sets and talents that just roam the field and sometimes don't do the shit that they're supposed to do. But when you got an elite talent like Devin White, you don't sit him down unless something's really wrong. And I've heard Bucs fans question his effort on plays. I've heard Bucs legends like Warren Sapp question his effort. And so that's a real thing. That exists. That's not make-believe. That's not made up. He's got some things to answer. But just because he did it there doesn't mean he'll do it here, right? Different type of coaching style, different type of motivation, different type of scheme that puts him in better positions. And maybe you unleash the Kraken. He's a beast. I've seen it. You've seen it. We've seen it with our own eyes. We know what this guy can be. So if you telling me there's a chance to unleash, that shit's been bottled back up. Whether Bowles bottled it back up or White himself bottled that shit back up. That shit's back in the bottle, and the lid is on that shit firmly. But if you telling me there's a chance we can shake that shit up, and I'm shaking a bottle, I'm not doing something else here, okay? Mine's out the gutter, guys. And you telling me I can pop the top on that bitch? Watch what I'm about to do here. And it explodes. Pause. I shouldn't have paused. I should have just did it, right? But they would have clipped me and they would have been talking about me. So I'm not going to do that. And you telling me we got a chance to do that here with Devin White. Man, what I'm saying is that's tough to turn down. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. King of the Bluegrass. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. King of the Bluegrass writes, you might be right, Lou, but for me, he is the best wide receiver prospect I've seen since Calvin Johnson. In hindsight, do you pass him up? I hear you. And you might not be wrong about this kid. A lot of people feel like he's the best since ... And you can fill in that blank for whatever receiver that remind you of. So that's cool. But are you willing in a draft that you feel like has a ton of talent and some really talented receivers? Do you have to have Calvin Johnson? Or could you settle for Larry Fitzgerald and get more picks in the process of doing that? That's what you got to ask yourself. What are we talking about? If I'm settling for Larry Fitzgerald, because that's what Roma Dunze looks like, that's who he's been comped to. I don't disagree with it. If that's who he's being comped to, and I'm passing up Calvin Johnson, heavens to Megatron. I haven't done that in years. That felt good. Heavens to Megatron. To get Larry Fitzgerald and pick up 3-4 more picks, including a future first-round pick? What are we talking about, man? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm doing that thing 15 times over. Yeah, he might be Calvin Johnson or better than, or this, the next coming of, or whatever. That next guy isn't too damn bad either, though. And the stuff that I could get because of moving back, it'll make it all worthwhile. Now you got to hit on that stuff. You trade back and you pick a bunch of doo-doo, then you obviously you open yourself up to criticism. But that's why they get paid the big bucks, right? Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou. Uh-oh. A lot of exclamation points there. I don't support it, but what would it take for you to trade outside of the top 3? I would need an explanation. I would need for them after the draft to, because you get after the first round, usually you hear from the GM, the coach, and they sit down and they tell you why they did what they did, right? And they don't normally tell you what was going on in the war room. They tell you why they took the player they took. Oh, we thought this guy was incredible. He was the highest this, that, and on our board. The same rhetoric bullshit they give us every year, right? To hype up the guy that they selected. I would need them to tell me as a fan for me to be okay, because I see a difference between the top 3 and then the next group. There's a gap, a wide gap for me between J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr. There's a gap, a considerable one. So for you to tell me that you're passing on one of these guys at the most important position in all of sports, not just the NFL, sports, to trade out of the top 3, which means you're not getting your hands on one of those 3 quarterbacks now. I don't care what the haul looks like and what you ultimately end up with, unless the guy you get at the quarterback position ends up being better than all 3 of those quarterbacks. I would need an explanation, and that explanation better sound something like, we evaluated all of these quarterbacks. I might not subscribe to the shit, but at least I'll sleep better at night knowing the method to their madness. If they tell me our grades the difference was negligible. We liked all these quarterbacks, but J.J. McCarthy, we had him right there with those other 3 quarterbacks. Everybody else had them separated. We didn't. So we knew if we moved back, we could still be in range to get McCarthy, and we were fine with getting McCarthy because we had roughly the same grade as May and Daniels and McCarthy, right? Like Williams might have a different grade, but we knew we weren't getting him. So McCarthy had roughly the same grade as Daniels and May. And so for us, it didn't really make that much of a difference. So when you factor in all that we were going to get to move back, we were okay with that. If that's what they told me, I might not like that answer, but at least I understand where their head was at when they did what they did. I know you were probably looking more for along the lines of like compensation. What would it take? I'm not even worried about the compensation because they would get King's ransom. I've already told you there are three quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3 in this draft. So the compensation is going to be crazy if they move out of the pick. For me, it wouldn't be about the compensation. I would need an explanation because that would be hard for me to wrap my brain around. Now, again, I am a Sam Howell fan. But the shit that happened at the end of the season was very unfortunate. But he mentally allowed that shit to happen. There was a lot of malpractice that went on. We've already chronicled that. Okay? Multiple times over. But at some point, the buck stops with you as the player. And you got to find a way. And sometimes they don't give you outs. And there wasn't a lot of times where Bieniemy gave him outs, ways to get rid of the football against pressure. And the protection might not have been great. But Sam was seeing ghosts at the end. He broke down on me mentally. I needed to see that mental toughness. I told Sam, I said, bro, you just got to win one measly game at the end of the season. Just one. Beat somebody if you don't want to get replaced. If you want to frustrate the entire fan base that's not on your side, win one game, and that's probably going to stop them from drafting a quarterback or at least making it a foregone conclusion. Even if we were at 5 where the Giants are or whatever, we could have still taken a quarterback, probably still would have taken a quarterback. But like the Giants aren't in a guaranteed quarterback. They need one, but they're not in a guaranteed position to get one because that's not a great position to be in. Like, it's too much talent here for me to pass up on that potentially to take the quarterback that we don't necessarily think fits the value of this pick. Whereas the value of the picks at 1, 2, and 3 fit with those quarterbacks. Now those 3 are gone. Now the value doesn't necessarily fit for J.J. McCarthy or a Michael Penix Jr. or a Bo Nix. So now you start running into, well, we need a receiver. There's some elite shit here. Might as well do that then. And if it just so happens that Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix is still there in the second round, now we can make something happen. Sam didn't show enough mental toughness last year. He let the noise in the building, outside the building, consume him to the point where he started playing bad football. And that's why we got to go in a different direction. Because when I needed Sam to show me that he wasn't a 5th-round pick, don't make it easy on them to use that as an excuse. He didn't dispel that. That was his chance. Like, F that shit. I already showed you over the first 10 weeks what I'm about. But what I'm going to do in these final, 8 weeks of the season, these final 7 games down the stretch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show y'all once and for all that I'm the guy. That was his opportunity. As shit got tougher, we were like, let's see what he do. A lot of tough games, a lot of different defenses down. Let's see what he do. It ain't no more Atlantas, New England's, ain't no more Giants for him to try to take advantage of now, right? Seattle's, all those defenses that he was able to have. Now it's the Jets, it's Dallas, it's Miami, it's San Francisco. Now we about to see what you made of. And he folded up like a cheap lawn chair. So you can't go back to Sam as your starter. Plus, the people that drafted him aren't here anymore, so nobody believes in him in the building. He knows that. He's a smart guy. So, and it's not about the compensation. It would be, I need you to tell me why you did what you did. Because I'm a why guy. Y'all know that. I'm a psychology guy. I need the mental behind it. I need to know the reasoning. That's what's going to make me feel okay about it. I might not love it, but at least when people ask me, hey, why y'all do that stupid ass shit? I can tell them why. I got a reason. You might not like the shit. You might think we stupid. And even after I tell you why, man, y'all was dumb as hell for that. Okay, yeah, no. But that's what it is, though. What I don't want to do is I don't know why they did that shit, bro. I don't know what the hell they was thinking. That's what I would need. That's what it would take. I knew you were looking for compensation. That's what it would take for me, though. JB, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, hey, Lou, a wise man once said, lightning don't strike the same place twice. Get Daniels. You're not wrong. That's why the person earlier that talked about PTSD, and I want to say might have been King of the Bluegrass. It was somebody that talked about PTSD from Robert Griffin III. I can't subscribe to that because I can't allow that situation in the past to stop me from going and getting a guy if I think he's the right man for the job. So I'm with you on that. Joe Rockhead, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, what's up, Lou? What's up, Joe Rockhead? He says, to me, BPA is an illusion. We can get into that. That's a real conversation too. If needs were not considered, teams wouldn't trade up. You just hope what you need has great talent available. That could be a whole show on its own because there's been a lot of conversations that I've had with people over that same conversation about BPA, best player available. Obviously, you have to take into consideration what it is exactly that you need. You can't ignore the fact that you need a tackle or you need a receiver or you need an edge rusher. And yes, you would hope that at your pick, that position is available and the value meets it. I've always argued, and you've always heard me say this, and this is one of my mantras this time of the year, get your guy when you feel the need to get your guy. Who places value on players? We do. Okay? The outside public. We place value. Oh, this is a good pick because this is where this guy should go. Who determines that? There's no set in stone. You can't take this player here. This is not good value. The only way you are to know that this is bad value is if the rest of the league simultaneously tells you we would not have taken this guy to the 5th round and you took him in the 2nd round. That's bad value. But you can't know that because all it takes is one other team to think like you think and say, hey, I really like this dude. And while everybody else may be thinking 4th round pick for this guy, one other team is like, if he's there at the top of the 3rd round, we taking him. You don't pick again until the end of the 3rd round, and the team that you know likes him, you don't know if they like him enough to take him in the 3rd round, but you know they like him. They sitting right there 5 picks after you select in the 2nd round. So if you don't take him, unless you're willing to trade back up, you ain't getting him. So what you got to do? You stuck between a rock and a hard place because you got to make a decision. Do I pull the trigger on this dude? It might be early by some, might be too early, but I got my guy though. You know, Nas on a track once said, babe, I got him though. I got him though. But I got him. That's how I feel sometimes. Like, yo, I got him though. Like, I know they talking shit about me right now. I know they said I overdrafted him and that was bad value. I know if you plug this into a PFF mock draft, it's going to tell you that you just got a D+ for that pick. But I got him though. So the question you got to ask yourself is, BPA a real thing? Because you're lying to yourself if you think teams don't take into consideration that they need a player at this position. If it were truly BPA, you could have 8 receivers on your roster. The best player available is on the board. He's a receiver, and you take that guy, regardless of the fact that you already got 8 receivers. Nobody's doing that, right? BPA is an illusion to an extent. I think it is a real thing from this standpoint. I've said this multiple times, the further back you go in the draft, BPA becomes less of a real thing. The closer you are to the front of the draft, BPA should be a real thing. Because if I'm bad enough to be drafted in the top 10, I need more than just one position. It's now, again, sometimes you made a trade that netted you a top 10 pick and you're actually a good football team. In that case, you got options. You could stay there, make a pick. You could trade out of there, pick up more picks, kick the can down the road, and continue to keep the cupboard fully stocked for future years to come. That's what the Eagles were doing for years, right? They had multiple first rounders in like 3 straight drafts, it felt like. Because what they would do is, we good. We a good football team. We made the playoffs. I don't have to take a player. I can move back. Pick up a first-round pick the next year, pick up picks, and I'm good. Do it again next year. Rinse and repeat. When you're at 7 and you earned the 7th pick in the draft, you suck ass. And if you suck ass, you should be drafting the best player that is on the board at the time of your selection. Unless it's a quarterback and you already have a quarterback, which, again, usually isn't the case. Look at the top 10 right now. Look at the top 10 right now. Bears are 1. You know what? I don't even know the top 10. I don't even know. I'm not even going to hold you. I don't even know what the top 10 of the draft is. We're just going to look right now. NFL 2024 draft order. Because I don't even know the damn picks. I ain't even going to front. But this is telling you, I don't know the picks. And I bet you there may be 1, maybe 2 teams that actually have a quarterback that you wouldn't move on from. Most of these teams ain't got shit. Bears going to draft a quarterback. Clearly, we're going to draft a quarterback. Clearly, New England's going to draft a quarterback. The Cardinals have Kyler Murray. They had to go out of their way as if they were trying to convince themselves. When the combine showed up, nobody asked Arizona who their quarterback was, right? Literally, it was a comment that would have been perfect. Nobody, ... right, colon. Nobody, and then Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray's our starting quarterback. They literally posted a picture as we were going into the combine weekend of Kyler Murray. He's our number 1 quarterback. What the fuck are you talking about? Who said he wasn't your number 1 quarterback? What are we doing here, right? The fact that you got to do that shows a little insecurity to me. Nothing wrong with propping your guy up, but whatever. Chargers have a quarterback. Giants don't have a quarterback. Titans think they have a quarterback. They're not sure. Falcons don't have a quarterback. Bears, again, don't have a quarterback. And the Jets, they need a young quarterback. They got Aaron Rodgers. They got a quarterback for now. But if Rodgers decides after this season, I'm done, they're screwed. They put all their eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket. We can keep going. Vikings don't have a quarterback. Broncos don't have a quarterback. Raiders don't have a quarterback. We can keep doing this shit. We went 13 picks. Two teams had quarterbacks. 2 teams have quarterbacks. Established quarterbacks. Cardinals, Chargers in the first 13 picks. If you draft in that high, you're ass everywhere for the most part. You may have 1 or 2 positions you feel good about. But the reality of the situation is you should be taking the best player available because you need it. The further away you get from the top of the draft, the more you should be looking to make need and value fit. We could have this discussion and I could talk about this for 2 hours. I could talk about it for 2 hours. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, would you endorse a vet quarterback starting ahead of May or Daniels for a year? Nah. Would I advocate for one being on the roster? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. And I want that guy there in the event that we get to camp and we get to the first 4 or 5 days of camp and you realize, hey, he's not ready. Well, we got a veteran that can step in there if he's not ready, right? And hopefully you would have identified that by OTAs. Like, you're not naming this guy the starter until you realize you get the veteran and you say it's a competition. That's what you do to protect your ass, so that in the event that the rookie's not ready, okay, hey, look, this guy's been the better quarterback, you know, and he needs some time. I said that on the last video. I'm advocating for them because that's the trend now. And I think it does wonders for a young quarterback. Listening to Sam talk about Jacoby's presence and what it meant for him. And even the year before, you know, with Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke and what they did for him. And then you look at Bryce Young, they had Andy Dalton, CJ Stroud. They went out and got Case Keenum and Richardson. They went out and got Gardner Minshew. Like, you need a veteran to help school these young boys, man. So I like, when you got a bunch of youngins, it's the blind leading the blind. Who's there to show Drake May? Sam Howell's going to show him? Sam Howell's barely figuring it out his damn self. How's he supposed to show him how to be a pro? I think it's almost a necessity that you go, that's add that shit to the list. If you ain't bringing back Jacoby Brissett, add veteran quarterback to the list. We need one of them things here. So, no, would I be looking for a guy to come in here and start? No. But am I advocating for a veteran to be here? And if he needs to start, so be it. Yes, I am. John Perez, my guy JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. I think this is 3 for you, but I'm not sure. So double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I want nothing, in all caps, to do with trading out of 2 or taking McCarthy. I've said it time and time again. Caleb, May, or Daniel should be their choices. And that's what's going to happen. The stuff we've talked about tonight were all hypotheticals. A lot of them were started off with, I know this isn't going to happen, because they don't want that smoke, right? And everybody understands what this is. We're not trading those, the number 2 overall pick. We're not moving back. Unless they sign Kirk Cousins or somebody like that in free agency, which I don't see them doing either. That's the only way we don't take a quarterback at 2. That's the only way. You sign a quarterback in free agency, then I still would have a hard time like wrapping my brain around that, because that's a Band-Aid solution to something that needs surgery, needs to be corrected and fixed. And you essentially throwing peroxide in the wound and throwing a few Band-Aids on it, like, hey, it'll heal up. No, bro. That shit needs stitches. It needs to properly heal. Draft a quarterback. Twin D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Twin D, writes, if both were coming out the same year, whose ceiling would be higher, Drake May or Trevor Lawrence? I think just off the strength of what he did at the collegiate ranks, I think Trevor Lawrence would get the nod. I wasn't blown away by Trevor Lawrence. I've said this a million times. His arm isn't that strong. The athleticism is there, but it's selective athleticism. It's not like he's this tremendous, great athlete, but he's a good enough athlete, right? But what Trevor Lawrence did at Clemson is what would ultimately have made him the number 1 pick, or the guy that he would go ahead of Drake May. If you're looking at them from a pure talent perspective, I think the athleticism is probably similar. I probably give Drake May the nod there, but I might be underrating Trevor Lawrence's, athleticism. I think it's pretty, close. You're splitting hairs with whomever you put on top of the other. Pause. Arm strength goes to Drake May. I think what might be the experience and the level of play goes to Trevor Lawrence, and the poise and all of that, Trevor Lawrence. I think, however, the decision making, because there were some decisions that Trevor Lawrence made where you go, bro, what are you thinking right there? Like, if I were a coach, I would need him to sit down and explain to me what the thought process was on this throw. And I sat down and I broke some of that stuff down the year he came out. It'd be Lawrence, but it wouldn't be by much. I'll just say that. It wouldn't be by much. Divine do care. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, yo, got season tickets this year for the first time, bringing us home some dubs. Also, what wide receiver draft prospect for free agency you think would fit well for us? I've been abundantly clear who I want at receiver. Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina. He offers us something that we don't have right now, and that's size. And even at 6'1", 220, which is what he weighed in at the combine, essentially, he plays bigger than – he's like A.J. Brown in that regard. And he plays even bigger than A.J. Brown from the standpoint of going up and getting it. Like, A.J. Brown will go and high point a ball, but still catch the shit here, right? Xavier Legette is jumping up, and he's stretching out as far as he can go and going and getting the football. We need a big receiver. We need somebody with some size. We need a guy that doesn't look like the rest of the receivers that are currently on the roster. Xavier Legette is that. So that's my guy. I'm thinking about getting season tickets as well, but boy, they keep raising the prices, and I'm not sure if I want to get back in the game yet or not. But I'm happy for you, and somebody got to bring home some dubs. Last year there were a lot of people that went to games and they didn't get the job done, and it got to the point where I know late in the season people were paying people to take tickets off their hands. Hey man, look, I'm not going to this game. Come on, bro. I don't want these to be wasted. Here, look, I'll give you $20. Take these and go to the game, please. Hopefully you don't have to go through that this upcoming year. A1 the Great, been a member for 24 months, 2-year anniversary. Yeah. Who writes, what up, Lou? This feels like a movie to me. That being said, I'm on a wait and see approach. We got some class in the building. Now I want to see how they think. I think that's going to be the biggest thing that we take away from this free agency group, this draft, is you kind of get into their mind. That's what I'm fascinated with. You know that. I want to see the inner workings of what Lance Newmark is about, Adam Peters is about, what this group is about at their core, what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. are looking for. Like, they keep telling us it's going to be different. It ain't going to be what they did in Dallas. It ain't going to be what they did in Seattle. It's going to be different. They're going to put all this. Okay, I want to see what it looks like. I want to see what, a player on this defense looks like, a player on offense, what you're looking for under Cliff Kingsbury. Like, I'm anxious to see what these players look like. So this year, and what it looks like this year might not be what it looks like 3 years from now, because you're turning over the roster. So it's going to look a little bit different in the initial stages. But the players that you bring in here should still forge an identity, right? Which is what they talked about. The kind of football we'll be playing ain't going to be for everybody, specifically on the defensive side of the football. So you still should be getting players with that in mind, right? So I'm actually anxious to see what that looks like. JB, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JB. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. JB writes, hit the like button, please. Y'all heard the man. Public service announcement. If you haven't already done so, almost 500 of you out there, only 241 likes. Do the right thing. Like Spike Lee, do the right thing. Hit the like button. So that, my friends, is the last super chat. Greatly appreciate y'all. Thank you for joining me tonight. We will go in deep into the free agency bag as we go free agency frenzy preview for the Washington Commanders on Thursday night. Should be a big show. Hopefully you'll be able to join me and we'll be able to have a very robust discussion about the upcoming pending free agency period and what we expect the Commanders to do. So with that said, you guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I look forward to chopping it up with you Thursday night. The rest of you, I'll probably see you tomorrow for the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. For some of you, if you're over on MusicHead University, you will get a upload tomorrow. And if you haven't already subbed up that channel again, shameless plug, MusicHead University. Class is always in session over there. Subscribe if you're looking for some great content in the music sphere. All right. Y'all get out of here. Take care. Y'all know what it is. Post up. Take command. Till next time. Y'all have a good one. God bless. Good night.